Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your animation-loving, revenge-driven, ice-dancing hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we have 3 very differently flavored shows for you. First, I will join an animator as they get isekai'd to the world of their favorite movie in Zenshu. Then John will bring back the edgy odds energy with a vengeance by reviewing the bloody fantasy tale Übel Blatt. Last but not least, I will take a seat at the ice rink to witness the underdog ice skating story of a student and her coach in Medalist. So grab your peg bar and blade of choice, make sure to not leave the luggage with your ice skates on the train, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. After graduating from high school, Natsuko Hirose starts her career as an animator. Her talent quickly flourishes and she makes her debut as a director in no time. Her first anime becomes a massive hit, sparking a social phenomenon and earning her recognition as an up-and-coming genius director. Her next project is set to be a romantic comedy movie themed around first love. However, having never been in love herself, Natsuko struggles to understand the concept of first love, and as a result, she's unable to create the storyboards, causing the movie production to come to a standstill. Joining the heroes of her youth, she uses her new ability to summon her drawn creations to fight the endless army of monsters that is destined to lead this world to its destruction. Can Natsuko rewrite this apocalyptic tale, and will she find her way back home, or is she doomed to meet the same end as the world that inspired her? Zenshu is an anime original and is handled by Studio MAPPA, which, of course, we have talked about so many times at this point. They handled parts of Attack on Titan, they worked on Jujutsu Kaisen, a bunch of other shows that even don't come to mind right now. We have tackled them so many times, and so since they are, I probably would say, John, would you say they are like the biggest big hit anime production studio as of this moment? Still?
They're up there, that's for sure. I mean, people know their names alongside Toei and Sunrise and, some of the other big ones that aren't springing to mind at the moment.
I feel like especially the big manga adaptations, like action-wise, like the big action shows, a lot of them, of those go to them. And they pretty much, all of them are pretty much on a same very good, if not great level of quality in terms of animation. Like, I don't remember a MAPPA show in recent time that I felt like was completely lackluster in any way. I mean, that brings...
They always go like whole hog. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to a fault, right? Because we have heard stories, especially when it comes to the production of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, where animators were overworked. They were like, there was a crunch, there was too much pressure. A lot of people working on that show expressed their discontent online. So, yeah, they're definitely not perfect when it comes to treating their animators the correct way. So, was it really interesting, them of all studios handling a topic, a show with a topic like that is deeply rooted in animation and animation production itself. So I was like, okay, let's see if there's something there. One of the animators, one of the animators snuck in here something maybe that is maybe a bit critical of their studio. I found one thing that made me chuckle in that regard, but I feel like there wasn't that much. There weren't like real jabs at like, oh fuck, this is a black company or something, which we had in Dragon Maid Dragon.
Oh yeah,
which we had in Maid Dragon. So, but yeah. They handled this, and of course the animation is gorgeous. I'll go into that more specifically when referring to a certain scene later on. But yes, this series is directed by Mitsue Yamazaki, who also directed the Hakenden remake, Monthly Girl Nozaki-kun, though I am an inept villainess and did a bunch of storyboard and episode direction work on stuff like Noragami, Bleach, Attack on Titan, Penguin Drum, and much more. Script and series composition were handled by Kimiko Ueno, who did a lot of script work on Shin-chan, Space Dandy, Delicious in Dungeon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And more. The music is done by Yukari Hashimoto, who also did the soundtrack for Komi Can't Communicate, Mr. Osomatsu, Penguin Drum, Sarah Zanmai, Toradora, and many more. So the production, as expected, is there. People with track records. And yeah, so with the staff out of the way, or the main staff anyway, there are of course a lot more people that worked on this. Yeah, the setup already discussed in the summary. We have our main character Natsuko Hirose, who becomes this phenomenon. Like she creates a magical girl anime. I forgot what it's called, but straight out of high school, and that shit just is a mega hit. Like it's an actual cultural phenomenon apparently, which, well, good luck doing that with a magical girl anime these days, but apparently it was. Of course, with that success comes pressure. The expectations are super high. 10 billion yen high, according to the president of the studio she's working for.
Sheesh. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money, man.
So, expectations are high for her to deliver another one, which is determined to be a rom-com movie titled Hatsukoi First Love. And like I said in the summary, problem is Natsuko is such a workhorse. She has been obsessed with animation and getting better at it with it since, I don't know if it's grade school, but definitely middle school. She has had no experience with romance technically whatsoever, so she has no idea how to conceive a story about that. She is constantly hassling like people in her office to tell her about their first love experience. She just talks to people on the fucking street, like attacks girls in the street and asks them, "What is your first love?"
That seems normal.
That seems absolutely normal. It doesn't make her less scary that since she isn't making any progress, she has decided she won't cut her hair until she finally will finish those storyboards. So she looks like a goddamn, I don't know, thing from The Ring. Just has her fucking purple hoodie, and it's just hair growing out of the hoodie where her head should be, her face should be. It's just hair, long black hair, reaching down to her to her legs. So yeah, that's very funny. That's most of, not her look for the entire of the show, but definitely for a lot of it. Yeah, she is stuck. She has writer's block. She has imposter syndrome because she can't make any progress, and she feels like she can't come up with her own creative ideas. And that definitely plays into the later story as well, and into the general theme of this show, which is about these kind of things. And of course, probably is also depressed to a certain degree because, she has, this is still her passion technically, but she's losing a bit of it because she just feels like she made a wrong decision, or she isn't verbalizing this. But we see, especially later down the road in the show, we definitely see a lot of imagery that refers to that. Like she has a dream sequence where she sees a lot of her people from her past life, like from her school, from the animation club at college, from her studio that she's working in, and all of them are also wearing the hair in front of their faces like she does, and all of them are accusing her of actually being a fraud, of not being able to actually do something, and she is like this one-hit wonder, and actually all her work sucks, like her drawing skills suck and everything, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. So she's definitely deeply in it. She is dealing with it by not really dealing with it, and her character is also not helping the issue because she is a perfectionist, and she has this tendency, if the storyboards delivered by other team members don't live up to her expectations, she doesn't berate them. She just says she'll do it herself instead, which doesn't solve the issue. Doesn't help her colleagues get better and puts much more work and pressure on her shoulders. And boy, oh boy, did that have a familiar ring to it for me, because for a long time I was pretty bad at teaching other people what I know. Instead, I would rather resort to solving an issue myself at work, because Depending on the situation, it is less time consuming to do the task yourself than showing another person how to do it. And also that way you can be sure that it's done quote unquote right, which is of course arrogant as fuck because it implies that the other person can't do it as good as you. Spoilers, that's usually on you because it means you did a bad job training them. You know, although speaking from experience, there are some people that just don't listen. Either way, it's not a great approach to working in a team. And while I've gotten better at it, I can still heavily empathize with Natsuko's attitude here. So it's like, yeah, I want to do this. This is my project. And also I need to do it the way I want to do it. And because I'm just the best at this, right? That's her approach, and this is my passion, and this is my thing. She hasn't learned how to properly work in a team yet. And it doesn't help that everyone not everyone, but a lot of them are treating her just like this genius director, like this genius that has come out of nowhere and has delivered like this mega hit. And of course she is right. Of course she must know what she's doing and is doing everything right. I mean, some colleagues speak up against that, right? But the president is like super supportive of her. Yeah, she will figure it out. But kind of ignoring the massive roadblock that like Natsuko has stumbled into, right? So that is a big problem. Zenshu, by the way, the title of the show is short for Zenshusei, which is a real term used in Japanese animation production apparently, and usually means redo everything or full retake. It's what she says to one of the animators that is bringing her the storyboards for the announcement PV of the movie. So this term is referencing a complete rework or revision of a scene or project. Probably mostly applied due to quality issues, but here it of course also has an additional meaning since the show is also about Natsuko literally rebooting her passion for and approach to working in her chosen profession. So that was really interesting. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get what you're doing here. So what happens? She chokes on a clam bento lunch. It's not really clear if, it's like poisoned or something like that because there was a bad clam in there or something, or if she choked really just, but she ostensibly dies. Just like her favorite director, which she read about dying earlier in the first episode, who created the movie that she watched as a child that inspired her to become an animator herself, A Tale of Perishing, which apparently was, in contrast to Natsuko's first outing, an absolute flop, like a super bomb. Because it's apparently like this classic fantasy tale, or made to look like that, but turns into like this incredibly depressing story where everyone dies at the end.
I mean, with a name like that.
Yes, exactly. One should have seen that coming, right? But, it was from an acclaimed director and everything, but it didn't connect with audiences. Most of them anyway, that's why it was a flop, but it connected with one person very strongly, and that is Natsuko, who was so intrigued with the characters, the world, what it was trying to say. She says multiple times, I don't quite get it, but that's the fun part. The fun part is me not completely understanding what it was trying to say and where it was going, and constantly mulling that over in my head, right? And thinking about this show, this movie made me think. This movie activated my fucking synapses, and it made me think about animation all the time and about the characters and their motivations all the time and this world and how it works. And that's what made me want to draw something like that myself and tell a story like that myself. So this is the spark. This is what got her into this industry, and her strong will, of course, and dedication. But so she reads about her about the director of that movie dying, who she also apparently died due to food poisoning. And then that same thing apparently happens to Natsuko, which immediately, when she wakes up in the other world, in the world of A Tale of Perishing, it's like, okay, this is a dream, right? This is not actually an isekai story where she died and got transported to another world, but she's having a dream about this because she just read about this, that her favorite director's food has been food poisoned. She's in this clear state of depression, wrestling with her inability to finish this project of hers, trying to cope with imposter syndrome and everything. And now she has this dream about her favorite childhood movie that got her into this profession. And of this dream is going to make her work through these feelings. That is the intention. That was my immediate thing that I got out of it. Okay, this is not really an isekai story. It's using the classic isekai tale as a vehicle, but it's just it was all a dream story. And the use of that dream is making her realize, that she still has passion and that she had the power all along, right? She knew how to write about first love all along and stuff like that. That was pretty much from the get-go, and I think I hit the nail on the head there. I mean, they're not super clear on it by the end, where it's like, was this a dream? Was this a real thing, right? Did it really happen or stuff like that? But in terms of what it was doing and where it was going with certain things and just how it happens, it definitely feels like, okay, she just dreamt the whole thing. For her brain made her dream about it to work through that shit. So, really cool concept, and especially from the perspective of her being an animator and director who is now trapped in a world all too familiar to her. We have seen stuff like this or shows that kind of go into this kind of topic, namely the things that come to mind first from recent quote-unquote time are Recreators and Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. There were many more shows that deal with animation and animation production as a topic. I think one of the most famous one probably being Shirobako, but I haven't seen that. So the ones I would compare them to, aside from maybe Maid Dragon, which has a very cynical take on the whole thing, I would go with Recreators and Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. And I think Zenshu is not as much in conversation with its medium as some of the other shows, like especially those two that have tackled anime as a theme in their own story. For example, I'd say Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken goes much more in depth in terms of technical details and processes, while Recreators is willing to go on much wilder philosophical tangents and more interesting thought exercises when it comes to creations confronting the creators and everything, and just the whole thing of story as a medium and what would it mean if these characters were real and stuff like that. Zenshu does stuff on the subcontextual level, but it's more in service of delivering a pretty well-rounded arc for its main character instead of being too interested in what specifically makes anime such a creative force and such a draw for many people. Again, there's some of that in here, mostly in episode 7 where we learn about Natsuko's youth, but a lot of it is also more fluffy fan service in the form of references to other shows and familiar tropes. Not bad by any means, but if you expected something more substantial from this, I don't know if Zenshu will deliver that for you. It's still interesting. It's still like a cool concept because it's like a reverse thing of Recreators, basically. In Recreators, we have these creations from light novels, from anime, from video games that come into the real world due to reasons. And and here it's a creator going to a fantasy world, and of course she is not a normal person there because she has this magic peg bar, which is this animation tool that helps to align storyboard sheets and stuff like that. And when she meets the party of the heroes, of the 9 heroes, who are at this point only 4 anymore, the others have left or died, because this is already in the middle of the movie, where she's basically joining the story. They immediately have to fight off like the invading evil of this show, of this movie of A Tale of Perishing, which are these insects, crab monsters called Void. And the prophecy is that the voids will destroy the world. Like there are these... Tell me if you heard about this before, John. There are these crystals in this fantasy world.
So what you're telling me is she's just a pictomancer.
Pictomancer.
She's just a pictomancer, just breaking out her palette and drawing up things to fight the other things.
Exactly. That's exactly what she is, because her power, since she's joined this world as an animator, is just once her weird peg bar starts talking to her and says, "You must draw, Natsuko," she can summon like a normal work desk, or ostensibly normal work desk in a stunning sequence akin to a Magical Girl's transformation, because of course, since her first big breakout hit was a Magical Girl anime, it would look like that. And John, I've shown you that sequence. It's stunning. It's Mappa going all out.
It's crazy.
Yes. And the first thing she draws is a not copyright infringing version of the Ancient Warrior from Nazca.
Don't worry about it. It's funny.
There are a lot of references to other anime in this show. A lot of them are blatant. Like, I mean, her Magical Girl anime doesn't necessarily look like Sailor Moon. It's more of like a cross between Sailor Moon and like delinquent anime, like delinquent schoolgirl anime, maybe with a side of ninja. But you know, that is pretty obvious. It's obvious what that is referencing, and in a later action scene where they have to fight an aerial battle, she summons a missile barrage, an Itano circus.
Let's go.
Literally animated by Itano himself, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's sick.
That is very sick. When I learned that, I fucking cheered. I was like, oh, fuck. So, so there are a bunch of references, both shallow cuts and deep cuts. There's like an anime or a character she summons, I think in the third episode, called Serval Cat Mask. It's not Tiger Mask at all, bro. Even though he's a wrestler. There's a Gundam knockoff. There's a bunch of other stuff in there where it's like, okay, I get what you're doing, but you're not doing that thing because, you know, for reasons. But some of the references are incredibly obvious. And it's fun, right? It's like, okay, I get this. I see that. I know what it is. So I immediately get what Natsuko's inspiration is. Like, these are the stories, these are the characters, these are the drawings that she practiced on, that she can draw immediately, that she knows how to do in very quick fashion. Like, holy shit, that girl can draw fast. And that's apparently not only like because of her superpowers in this world. She's just generally, she has been, since she started so early, and she is able to draw up characters super quick.
Hey, when you get paid by the cell, you gotta draw fast, I guess.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, that's what she's doing. So she's summoning a bunch of characters from animation she knows, and those characters help her destroy the voids. And she, you know, actually helps out the party a lot. Like, she becomes a real, like the real powerhouse of the team. And that's cool.
Funny, considering Pictomancer, I think, is the strongest DPS currently in FF14.
There you go. When was that introduced? I wonder if that was an inspiration for this show.
I mean, I got to imagine this show was in production before the launch of Dawn Trail, but it was introduced in 7.0, so it's been out now for about a year.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know. Maybe there was some overlap there, but
there could be. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, but we don't want to accuse anyone of anything, and maybe otherwise it's just an humble homage, just like this show does to a wild degree.
I mean, it's not like it is a new job, because, I mean, if you've played FF6, you know Realm was also a Pictomancer.
Really? Well, that's the thing, John. I haven't played Final Fantasy VI yet. I haven't played any of the Final Fantasies before Final Fantasy VII, but now that the remasters are out and in my possession, I will get to it eventually. It's actually on the plan.
Maybe we'll speak about that on a ready podcast.
Yes, we will eventually. But I think Persona 3 Reload will come first.
Yeah.
All right. So, she is not the only character in this world, of course. We have a party of heroes. Like I said, I guess later 5. And originally there were 9, because there are 9 countries in this world with 9 crystals. And the story is, if the voids destroy all the crystals, then the ultimate void will be summoned, which is this giant-ass monster, and it will destroy the entire world. So we had heroes from 9 countries with the 9 crystals, and these heroes banded together to defend the realm, whatever. But, you know, since it's a very harrowing tale. Some of them already died. The ones we have left is the main hero, Luke Braveheart.
What a name. Oh my god.
It's amazing. He's a knight, a classic knight with a very powerful sword. We have Unio, an anthropomorphic magic casting unicorn. That is very weird. It's like this cartoon character, like maybe Morgana in Persona 5 or something like that, with pretty much the same character traits, actually. But who can also transform into a real flying unicorn. So that's interesting. We have Mammon, who is like this classic elven archer. And we have QJ, who is like this more... I don't know what these kind of statues are with the big eyes and everything, like made out of clay, but he looks like them.
I think I know what you mean.
Yes, I think one of them also is in Darkstalkers, maybe a character. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's what I think. Oh, I don't know what they're called, but I know
Yes.
know that.
But he's a robot, and he is, responsible for detecting the void and stuff like that. So this party encounters Natsuko and doesn't know what to do with her. They first think she is some kind of weird gremlin because of her hair. And especially Unio is absolutely not fond of her. Like, he hates her guts, and I guess vice versa, though Natsuko just seems to be like, whatever, fuck that guy. Just whirls him around holding his horn. She can be a very violent person, but that's also very funny. She's very quick-witted and has some snarky retorts and stuff like that. So she's a very fun character. And her banter with Unio especially is very entertaining. But yeah, Luke, of course, like, who is this? What the hell? What am I supposed to do with this? Mammon and QJ seem to be more open towards it, but yeah, even they have to get acquainted with her first, and they don't want it in the beginning because they're the heroes, and who's this person? What is she talking about? The real world? What is she talking about? Animator? What does this mean? What is the kingdom of reality? What? So they're kind of flustered and try to just push her to the side. But since at the end of the first episode, she stops the story from going the classic way, which in the original movie, at that part of the story, Unio sacrificing himself, or has to sacrifice himself by unleashing a kind of self-destructive magic to stop all the voids that attack the city. And because Natsuko is there and has her super powerful summoning magic and summons that ancient warrior that destroys all the void, Unio doesn't die. So she has already changed the story. So what is that going to result into? Like, what will come of this? Things definitely change through her action. So once she does that, once she beats the void there, she slowly becomes integrated into the party. The townsfolk become very fond of her, start cheering her on, and so because she's so powerful. Fun side thing of this is Natsuko actually acknowledges that she is an isekai, kinda, considering she's part of an industry of the industry where this is still, I guess, the dominant kind of story they're telling for some reason these days. I feel it would be weird if she didn't understand what's going on. Even, like I said, it's maybe a dream and not an isekai.
I mean, I guess to be fair, it seems like isekais are kind of finally on a downtrend. Now it's just that you have fantasy story and it happens to be light novel.
Yeah.
Even though I look at live chart and I still see that isekai tag and I'm like, okay, good for you.
Yes, and that's the funny thing, right? I would have skipped the show maybe if it wasn't MAPPA and I knew it was an isekai, but as I mentioned in the sneak peek, it fucking surprised me. I thought it was a work comedy. I didn't read the entire summary of this thing. I was like, okay, this is a work comedy by MAPPA about animation. I will check this out. Nope!
Rookie mistake.
But I got a cool show out of it. So that was a nice surprise. Anyway, she is still, even though she knows what's happening kinda to her, she's still somewhat confounded that it happened to her specifically. Which is one of the more funnier lines in this show. Quote, "Doesn't this only happen to shut-ins and needs? I had a job with benefits!" So... I mean, I can't blame her for reacting that way. So...
sometimes you don't always have to make friends with Truck-kun.
Exactly. Sometimes you make friends with Clam-kun, I guess. There's also the show is definitely having fun taking jabs at, you know, the all too familiar tropes of old anime too. There's this funny reference to plot contrivance when Yunio says that everything is fine because QJ isn't detecting any voids at the moment. And Natsuko replies, he doesn't detect anything because he is charging. From now on, he will always be charging at the most inopportune moments. And, you know, we know how that happens when you have like a character with kind of an overpowered ability that would kind of solve the issue every time. You a lot of stories try to find a way to extract them, remove them from the equation. It's like, why did you introduce that character with that power then in the first place? It's the Superman problem. Like, if you make Superman too powerful, he, you know, why is there a Justice League, right? That's actually one of the things that Bruce Timm and the guys said when they created the Justice League TV series. They're like, well, we made the mistake in the first season to try to make Superman too weak in every episode because we wanted the other characters to shine, but that made Superman look kind of like a wimp. It's kind of tough if you have like the super all-powerful character to give him something to do or give the other characters something to do that he wouldn't be able to solve easily by himself, just in terms of power scaling and everything. So it was interesting. It was interesting that the show just was not acknowledging that and was like, yeah, that's, you know, that happens a lot. So we're gonna take
fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Natsuko also talks about death flags, like when you know, certain things happen in the show. And was like, oh fuck, here's the death flag. I need to do something because that is where you shit. When someone says something like that, shit goes absolutely wrong. You know, she's familiar with this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's fun. I think just in general, the show is doing a really good job to show also a progression on Natsuko. The thing with the hair is not just in there for fun's sake. Like when she actually enthusiastically gets to draw something to change the story and help her new friends or later friends for the first time, that's the first time we actually see her face in this show. Like it's entirely covered the entire time. And then when she has that magical girl transformation thing scene and starts to draw that ancient warrior, that's the scene I sent to you. That's the first time we actually see her face in the show. So that, you know, heavily emphasizes the relevance of that moment. And, you know, from that moment on, her showing her face and characters looking at her face is much more important than I expected, especially when it comes to her relationship to Luke. And we'll get into that. She helps beat them helps the characters beat a lot of the void. There's also some things in this world, and that's where again you feel like, okay, more evidence that this is a dream. Like there's a bartender called Naomi, which looks exactly like a Fox Furry version of Natsuko's producer, manager, president, whatever of the studio. Later, there is a weird bird with a turtle shell on his back that has the exact same haircut and kind of face like the director of the movie of A Tale of Perishing, and who is telling her entirely, it's no use, you can't change the story, and so on. And all of these are just these classic dream trope thingies, right? So, yeah. But that's interesting in itself, in terms of what it means to change the story of a different creator and everything. And there's a nice cap-off sentence for that at the end, uttered by the bird. I will get to that at the end of the review. But yes, that's some interesting shit. Initially, Natsuko is very keen on returning to the real world, but then she starts to wonder, there are no deadlines here, no pressure to deliver the next big hit. Of course, on the other hand, there is a very imminent danger of an apocalypse, but hey, I think we can all agree that's far easier to handle than the perils of wage labor. So she becomes very happy to live in this world. She utters several times the sense, I don't remember Tale of Perishing being this happy. And she loves the food in this world. She loves food in general. My God, that woman can eat. And Luke is a good cook, so she gets to eat a lot of good food, and she kind of becomes very happy to be in this world. She can summon her power at will. She only can do it when someone from the party or she herself seems to be in direct peril. But, still, she's a force to be reckoned with until a specific moment in the show, kind of in the last couple of episodes. But yeah, we have a couple of other characters, like I said. Luke the Brave Hero, we get to him last, I think, because he's, aside from Natsuko, the most important character in this story. But we have his, in the movie, love interest, Destiny Heartwarming. Destiny Heartwarming, yes, that's her name. Luke Braveheart and Destiny Heartwarming.
Jesus Christ, okay. All right.
And in the movie, she was the one who, after a lot of his friends died, pulled him out of his depression for a while until she also gets killed. So in this, things, again, take a turn because, Natsuko is there. Natsuko is there to save the day. So Destiny doesn't immediately die or whatever, and instead becomes very infatuated with Serval Cat Mask, the character. Like, when she sees Natsuko summoning him, she wants to be like him and suddenly becomes super buff, which was a fun thing. Like her first being her like this princess character, and then she becomes like this bodybuilder wrestling character. Really funny, wearing the cat mask all the time. I love that. So that's
kind of awesome, though.
Yeah, and she her kind of story is that she wants or is intent to marry like this rich, pompous, somewhat, I mean, not really douchey guy. He's just weird. He has a lot of wives, and he wants to make her his next wife. He doesn't necessarily seem to be a bad person aside from that, but she only wants to do it so he gives her money to have create an orphanage for all the orphans in the city. And Natsuko helps her be like, there are other ways to do this. So, changes her character. There is Memon, who is like this elven archer, like I said, and she has an interesting story in regards to kind of having the same problems that Luke has, only she's already a step further. They have all suffered so many losses and so much despair that she is at this point where she is like, this all sucks. I just want it to end, so I'm just gonna find a way to summon the ultimate void myself and end this world. Where it's like, all right, that's dark. That's super fucking dark. Make a character that is so depressed, and I don't feel bad giving that away because it's very obvious that it's her. What at that point made me wonder a bit was how Natsuko is behaving, or about Natsuko, how Natsuko is behaving is, first of all, her pigheadedness extends to her behavior in the fantasy world, like from, her pigheadedness from work. She's intent on solving certain crises on her own because she thinks she has the most detailed knowledge about the plot of the movie and knows the character sheets in and out. She's the best person to handle it. I understand going for a more delicate touch in regard to not telling all the characters what she knows, which would, in my eyes, make the most sense, right? It's like, hey, I know this is bad to hear, but here is how the story goes. And at some point, in the beginning, they wouldn't believe her, but once they get really acquainted with her and know what her powers and that she's from a different world where something exists that tells the story of this world, I would imagine you would want to know everything about that so you can change your own story. But she kind of takes that decision away from most of the characters by just not telling them the entire story, because she thinks she is the best person to change the story and to handle it and to decide who has to learn how much information about it. Like I said, I understand going for this more delicate touch, but one could argue that as soon as she has earned the trust of the party, she should tell at least some of them everything she knows, so everyone is literally on the same page. Withholding integral intelligence is a really bad idea considering the situation, and as soon as you look beyond her character traits as a reason, you realize this is just to keep things surprising for the viewer. After all, if she immediately told the party the entire plot, we'd know it too. I feel like this is a very inelegant and contrived method to solve this particular issue though. Like, why not have her tell the characters everything, and then have that be the reason that the story changes drastically from what she is familiar with? That would also align our point of view, her point of view more with ours, since all the developments would be new to her as well. And like I said, they partially do that, especially later on. Like once she starts interfering, some things happen at different times and places than they did in the movie. But they should have leaned fully into that instead of having her keep her full knowledge so close to her chest in certain regards. Again, there's some characters she tells what she knows later on, but also some of the characters immediately after she tells them they die. And it's like, okay, all right. So, yeah. And in regards to Mammon, this is especially egregious, I guess, because she knows that Mammon in the story of the movie is a traitor, which kind of crystallizes in the 3rd episode or something. So it's not really a big spoiler. It happens very quickly because Mammon is, super depressed. She's like part of this cult who want to, the Voidists, I think, who want to just summon the ultimate void and have this pain, this misery in this world end because they feel like it's hopeless to keep on living. And Luke stumbles across that, and she and him work together to find a way to get Mammon technically out of this mindset and everything, and stop her from summoning the ultimate void. And in the original movie, when she tries to do that, Luke has to kill her or something, which makes his situation worse. So of course they will avoid all of that. And the way Natsuko solves this issue, the way she sways Mammon's heart is by summoning a character from not Uta Prince Summer, who dances with Mammon to show her the beauty of life. Which is funny as fuck, but it's falling really flat in terms of emotional impact. Like, the tone of this show is all over the place in certain parts. This character story needed some kind of really personal catharsis moment, but instead we get a goof. Like, it all plays into the theme of Natsuko being able to invoke positive changes for the characters of this story and everyone becoming infatuated with the characters and stories she creates, which in turn rekindles her passion for animation. That makes sense. That is her character arc. But, if you go for a dark and serious tone and something as bleak as a character wanting to end the entire world because they are incredibly depressed and miserable because of all the loss and grief they have experienced, and in the face of their almost eternal lifespan, you really need to go the extra mile to give that character something to live for. Male idols ain't cutting it. Even though Mammon says she is a... Oh god, what is the name of that not idol character that she summons? It's something very ridiculous. But she says after that she's gonna be a stand for him for life. So, alright. Okay. But yeah, it's still funny. A lot of the show is funny. The humor in the show is actually really good. I laughed a lot of times. But this was one of the very few moments where I was like, I wish you did something different here. And the thing is, and maybe, again, that's a fault of how the characters are structured. In general, Mammon should have had a completely different character story. Maybe something more lighthearted, just like Destiny, if you want to go with a lighthearted solution. And they should have kept the really dark stuff in terms of character motivation and everything to Luke. Because Luke kind of has the same problems as Mammon, and he gets a satisfying resolution, or a more satisfying resolution from an emotional standpoint at the very end of the show. So why did you pack the same kind of story in here twice? Like, just give Mammon a different story. Like, aside from Natsuko, the female characters in the story don't get much to do, which, that would have not made this better, I guess, if you gave her another lighthearted stuff. But something different, more substantial, would have been better than having basically Luke's story rehashed for her as well. So that was a bit of a stumbling thing where it's like, okay, I wish they went another route here. But again, just one of the small things. Natsuko, after battling a lot of voids, destroying a lot of voids, winning the day, becomes overconfident, does the same thing like she's always been doing, but to a self-destructive degree, just like she does in the workplace. It's kind of basically having the same development as she has in the real life, she has in this fantasy story. At some point, she's like, I'll do it all by myself. It'll just be faster in the end. So, of course, her lesson is to rely on others and everything, but it's interesting to see her like, okay, that's just her. At some point, she is like reverting or resorting to handling all the stuff herself because she thinks she is the most competent person to handle the job, but in return, that puts a lot of strain on her. Too much strain. And at some point, her magic starts to not properly work anymore because of that. And the irony of MAPPA, of all studios, delivering a show that is about burnout and being overworked in the animation industry, though somewhat self-inflicted in this case, to be fair, is not lost on me. That was the one thing where I was like, okay, yes, but that was the story of as a whole, not a specific reference to work conditions or something like that, because that's not in the show. But yeah, one of the best and funniest episodes is episode 7, which focuses on the different stages of Natsuko growing up, how Tales of Perishing sparked her obsession with animation and made her want to become a virtuoso like that movie's director, and how her unrelenting passion influenced all the people around her. It's really great. Like some of their classmates, someone from college who also wanted to become an animator and stuff like that. And yeah. And I think this is where I will go into spoilers, which I don't really do on one-season reviews as much, which I should maybe do more, or we should do more if it's just a one-season thing and not something where it's like, or a definitive one-season thing, and not something where it's like, oh, this might get another other season, and then we can talk about the developments. So just use the first season discussion as a primer. But this show is over. This is a one-and-done thing. I don't see the story being continued from where it leaves off at the end, so I might as well go into spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about the ending of the show, turn off here now, and or jump to the next review, please. Don't turn off the pod. But yeah, so as can be expected from Natsuko's next project, this is also turning into a love story. Like I said, it's a bit of the reverse scenario as it is for recreators, where the anime characters come to the real world and meet their creators. Here it's a creator traveling to the world and confronting the characters of her favorite creator, who were basically the root of all her life choices. Creations that inspired her and that she, yes, loved in her own way. So, what happens if those characters suddenly are as real as normal people to her and one of them confesses their love to her? How would a creator cope with that situation?
Oh.
Very interesting, because that's what Luke does. He very slowly, after being like very put off by Natsuko in the beginning, he very slowly becomes very fond of her. He becomes flustered around her in certain situations, red as a tomato and stuff like that. He realizes that he loves cooking for her, but not for cooking itself, just because to see her like eat and, react to her, like be happy about that he is the one who cooked for her. He's like, do I just like, I think some person says to him, maybe you just like characters, watching characters eat. And he looks at Yunio, and Yunio is gulping down something, and he gets this look on his face like, no, that's not it. It's probably Natsuko that I watch Natsuko eat, and that I watch her eat my food that I cook for her. So that's when the realization slowly creeps in. But he also apparently hasn't had any experience really with love yet. I think Destiny in the original story was his first love. So he doesn't know how to cope with that. He has to talk to some of his friends. I think, one person who tries to really like get him to talk to Natsuko is Justice, who is like this dragon who was part of the 9 Warriors before, but left them because he couldn't really fight with them anymore, got depressed about it. He couldn't fly anymore because his wings got damaged in one of the fights. And he just became a drunkard and everything. And one of the stories of the show, one of the character stories, is him getting him out of that funk and helping Natsuko killing or destroying one of the or averting one of the void attacks by actually lifting her and her desk up to a mountain, even if it's very hard for him because he can't fly properly anymore. But yeah, once that happens, he kind of rejoins the party again, and him and Luke have reconvened, even though, they were at odds in the beginning because Luke was so disappointed because Justice was like his idol in a way, like he looked up to him a lot. So when Justice comes to him and says like, yeah, you realize you're kind of in love with that girl, right? And Luke is like, what? No, that can't be. And he tells him like how to talk to her, and I don't know if it's him or another character tells Luke, after Luke is just spending multiple days just telling Natsuko that he loves her, and of course she doesn't know how to deal with that because that never happened to her, especially not from a character that she actually also has loved since her childhood, but in a kind of different way, right? Because he was always with her and he was her inspiration and everything. He was a favorite character in the show, in the movie. So someone tells Luke that he needs to tell her that how he feels about her, and his solution is telling her just "I love you" every time he sees her, and they don't really have a conversation about it. He just tells her that, and she doesn't know how to handle that and how to have a conversation about that. And yeah, then Justice, I think, is like, okay, come on, you can't like force her your feelings on her. You have to like be a bit more, this needs to be more of an exchange and everything, and you need to consider her feelings and everything. So that's really interesting, and how these two grow together. But it's also not only about learning to feel a new kind of love for the first time. It's also about facing the inevitability of certain things in life, like death, for example. Natsuko is rewriting the story of her favorite movie because she fell in love with the main character and doesn't want him to die, but that might not be her story to tell. I feel like the end of the story agrees with her point of view, but there's some things in here where it's like, is this really her place to do this? Like, that's another person's story. Like, I feel like at certain moments, especially when the director Bird comes into play and scolds her for trying to change the story, it seems like the show is trying to discuss the integrity of art as a deeply personal form of expression here. That not everyone should be allowed to change just because they can. And that even if a tale is very like depressing, that has merit, that can have merit, that can have something important to say and everything. Like I said, there's a quote, I will get to that, but that relates to that. But yeah, that was very interesting. I like that the show invests an episode to show that Luke didn't fall for Natsuko out of nowhere. Because she is the one who pulled him out of his depression and gave him hope. Like, he needed a reason to keep fighting the voids after all the loss and misery he had experienced, and Natsuko became that reason for him. So this is the better version of Memmon's storyline, like I said, who basically already was a step further into despair than Luke. But while the resolution to her story lacked any emotional impact whatsoever, just like Destiny's, Luke's version really works because he's not just in love with Natsuko's creations, he's in love with her as a real person. And the show contrasts love for fictional characters or work of art with deep romantic love here. Same applies to Natsuko, who until now has loved Luke as a character, as a work of art of her favorite creator, but now she falls for him as an actual person. And this will of course help her finish her work in the real world and grow as a person. So that's really cool. That storyline really works. And this is why I think it's kind of doing the story a disservice to also have another character in there like Memon, who has a similar story but with a much less engaging resolution. Just basically a joke. But yeah, I like the Luke Natsuko storyline. I thought that was really well done, and it has another wrinkle to it. There's some another small moment I really liked, and that is kind of rare, I feel like, especially when you come to shows where a romantic relationship is involved. And John, you know how we both are not very fond of misunderstandings. And there's like this moment where, I mentioned before, Junio is very upset that Luke falls in love with Natsuko. He does not want that because he can't stand her, and he wants Luke to fall in love, but with any other girl. Like, He has known Luke since they were childhood friends, right? Since they were together since they were kids. And he's like, no, this girl is bad for him. I don't want that for him. Fuck! Right? He's really upset. And he doesn't know why Luke can't tell him, certain things when it comes to that relationship and everything. And there's this moment where Luke talks to Justice. Junio is somewhere in the background, hiding, listening in. And this is like this typical scenario where, Luke is going to say something that's going to hurt Junio's feeling. And then Junio is going to snake away and going to harbor resentment towards Luke or more towards Natsuko because of that, right? This is a thing that happens in so many other shows where it's like, okay, a person listens into what a person is saying. They say something hurtful. Then the other person is distraught and leaves the scene, and then the other person actually says something nice, right? That alleviates that what was said before or gives it more context. And it's like, oh, the tragedy. If only the other person had stayed for like 1 more minute, they would have never. Oh, it's such a misunderstanding. Oh, I hate that. I hate that so fucking much. I hate that trope. I hate it so fucking much. I want to punch everyone who puts that in their story, like in the face. So I was very happy that this didn't happen here because Luke actually, he says, I can't talk these kind of feelings I have for Natsuko to Yunio. And Yunio said, oh, fuck. Because he is family. I can't talk to... He's like family to me. I can't talk to my family about my love problems. And Yunio's like, oh, Luke! I'm family to him. So he heard the part that could have been hurtful, but then Luke immediately was like, no, he's actually not just a friend. He's family to me. And that's why I can't talk to him about this. And of course, that makes Yunio super happy. And I was happy too. Like, that was very nice. So please, can more shows do that instead of doing that stupid, overheard, misunderstanding, blah shit? Thank you very much, Zenshu, that you can that you showed me that there's another possibility there and another way to go, a much better way. Anyway, yeah, Natsuko, Luke, and Yunio are the best characters, by the way. Like, Justice is also pretty good, and like I said, Destiny and Memo sadly get the short end of the stick because they are not really that much characters, really. Like, there's some in there, but they don't get that much to do, and also they're not as interesting, and that's a bummer. The actual ending is also a bit abrupt. She gets technically transported to the back to the real world. We don't see her arriving there, I think. I don't know if we see her wake up and realize it was a dream. I think we see her disappearing from the fantasy world, and the next scene we see is her finishing or having finished the movie Hatsukoi First Love. And it was a success, of course, and everything. And we see her finishing the movie and everything. And then she just is on to the next project or whatever. Like, it's like really it's only a minute of footage after the fantasy world basically gets restored and she disappears from it. We see her in the real world. We see her working with her colleagues, and then she walks down the road. And it looks like on the other side, it looks like on the other side the party is walking in the opposite direction, and then she turns around like, huh? And then the show is over. So it's a very abrupt ending. Like, there's not really any big epilogue or, catharsis or a reconnection between her and Luke or whatever. Or no, she stays in the fantasy world, which again makes me think also because she doesn't really talk to the characters. The characters might not really be there. I feel like it's just it was a dream thing, and it's toying with was it? Maybe wasn't it? I feel like it's ultimately a satisfying resolution. This was always about Natsuko remembering what made her fall in love with animation in the first place. Like, again, was it a dream? Was it a true isekai experience? Who knows? But it did the trick, and she also learned to rely on others. Which shows in how she accepts the storyboard from a different animator and everything in the final scenes. So her character arc is very realized. She realized that she actually had a first love all along, right? She realized that she has had the passion all along. She had the craft all along. She had the skills all along. Everything was really there. She just had to be reminded by her favorite work. And that was the thing that the show was setting out to do with that character. And the other big part was Luke of her character journey. And I think those two characters really work really well in the story. The other characters don't get that much to do. I think Yunio is in third place, and they do some interesting stuff with him. Everyone else is kind of light in terms of character development. But I liked it. I thought it was really fun. I thought it's incredibly well animated. The production values are out of this world. Fantastic looking show. And yeah, I feel like if you want to watch a slightly different isekai story, I guess, if it is one, if it isn't one, technically it is one, I think, that takes some jabs at the tropes of the medium that it's in, and a lot of fun references. You maybe have probably already checked this out. I hope. It's a fun story. It's fun characters, especially the main character, Natsuko, is great. And yeah, I would say give it a chance. It's not perfect. but I say for its runtime, it's doing a lot of interesting things, especially when it comes to what how it relates to anime itself and everything. It's not as deep or interesting as Recreators, or as going as much into detail in terms of what the action production is about, like maybe Shirobako or Keep Your Hands, or how you actually become proficient in this craft, like Keep Your Hands of Eizouken goes into. But it's still a light, fluffy fantasy tale with some interesting bits sprinkled into it. So yeah, it's on Crunchyroll. And while the final words of the director / bird Kametaro Tsuruyama ring true, quote, easygoing simpletons don't go thinking happy endings are all there is to entertainment. Considering all the dire shit we are currently dealing with in real life, I sure don't mind seeing a wholesome happy ending in my escapism of choice. If you do so as well, and if you want to see a really well animated show on top of it with fun characters, some interesting themes, and hearty laughs, definitely check this one out.
So, Übel Blatt sure is a show that exists.
A ringing endorsement by John.
Yeah, so when we talked about it during the sneak preview, you could definitely tell that it wore its inspiration very heavily on its sleeve, much like you talked about with Zenshu. Haha. Look at that. Connecting threads. But yes, 20 years ago, a young swordsman named Asherit earned the fabled title of Blattmeister, Blade Master, for his exceptional skill with a sword. He was chosen by the Emperor of... I butchered this name because I don't remember how they said it in the show. The Emperor of Sazlenden to be one of 14 elite warriors on a perilous quest to defeat the evil nation of Wistek. Wistek was a formidable foe, possessing powerful weapons and dark magic. Equipped with lances blessed by the Emperor himself, the 14 warriors traveled into enemy territory, losing 3 of their ranks to the dangers of the land. 7 of the remaining 11 abandoned the quest, fearful of the risks involved. Nevertheless, Asherit and the 3 others proceeded to successfully complete the quest. It was then that the 7 who abandoned the mission ambushed their comrades, and upon returning home, they told the Emperor that they had completed the quest themselves after they were forced to kill the 4 who betrayed them. As a result, they were hailed as heroes and were dubbed the 7 heroes, while the 4 who were killed became symbols of treachery and received the moniker the Lances of Betrayal. And thus, this story is of the voyage of Asherit, now known as Kainzel, who indeed survived the slaughter and vowed to take the heads of his traitorous companions who have over the years become powerful nobles and warlords hailed as saviors by the people. So, this show is headed up by our friends, who we've talked about several times in the past, Satellite. And this show is based on a manga that has finished its run, asterisk, because there's a sequel manga.
Yeah, I saw.
Penned by Etoroji Shiono. And I think this, they've done some other stuff, but it seemed like this is probably the one that got big. It's directed by Takashi Naoya, who's done a little bit of a lot of things.
I think that's a theme in this episode, because the directors of Zenshu and the next show I'm going to talk about is like, I feel like there's not that much big stuff they have worked on as actual directors, but they've worked on a lot of shit in general. It's like, okay.
Like Naoya has worked on some high-profile name stuff, like Railgun S, Little Busters, Wicross, and a couple other things, that are known names. But then I look at the rest of this list, and I'm like, okay, I've heard that name, sure.
Yeah.
The script was done by Tatsuya Takahashi, who has worked on such winners as Arrow Manga Sensei.
Yay.
But they've also worked on some other good stuff, like one of my personal big favorites, the 2011 Idolmaster series. So they've done good stuff. And there's also some scripting by Tatsuya Yamada, who's done some other stuff. Like I think we talked briefly at least in passing at one point about Knights of Sidonia.
Yes.
You know, I know exists.
I've watched one episode. I think the animation is fucking disgusting. So
Yeah, I remember
didn't continue
the CG
it.
being sort of. Mm-hmm. Music done by Shun Narita, who hasn't done a whole ton of anime work, but has done like a couple of games. Like the one game that I know offhand off this list was this PlayStation Vita rhythm game called Ia VT Colorful, back when Vocaloid was at its peak. But they did some music in SAO alternatives, so they have been around. The show, well, I guess we could talk a little bit about some of the characters first, but the overarching narrative in this show is pretty much what I laid out, talking about the summary. The 7 heroes are the bad. We need to get rid of them. Some of them are more bad than others. And we really only have major encounters with like 2 of them. Some of the other ones are there. One of them dies and somehow comes back, question mark. But I mean, that's also a thing that happens with our main hero, Kainzel, who is sliced up very brutally. The show is makes no secret about how violent it is. It's it is very, like you said, of its age from the aughts, and edgy and dark and bloody and Jesus Christ.
That's what stood out to me when I watched the first episode, how much fucking blood there is. It's just goddamn.
And I mean there's a lot of it, but I don't feel like it's overly excessive. Like, yes, it's there, but it's not like we're not seeing like comical gallons of blood Mortal Kombat levels.
No. It's not that. I think that, are there even any, I don't know, dismemberments and stuff like that, or is it just blood spurts everywhere? I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of it, but it was not super excessive.
I don't overtly remember any on-screen like beheadings or dismemberments. Like, I think it's implied.
Yeah, sure.
It's not really like.
It's not super gory.
There's also, like, you know, Japanese broadcast standards of,
yes,
like,
of course,
show a beheading, even though there are shows that are in different time slots where you get to see that every once in a while. But Kainzel was trained by this sword mistress named Glea, and you know, he learned everything he knows from her, and she is like renowned as being like super strong, super good at what she do. So her student took on her lessons very, very well. And on his deathbed, he basically takes the blood of a fairy and is able to use that to bring himself back to life. And he takes on like an entirely different appearance. And he gains magical powers from the light of the twin moons.
Wait, so his original, the way he looks originally is not how he looks in the first episode of the show?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Because I don't know. I guess we can go full spoilers, because it's not clear where the story of this show is not finished. It got to about like chapter 60, 62 out of 170. And Satellite, we were speaking before we started recording, Satellite doesn't seem to be in the business of doing season 2s recently, because there was that other show that they did, the Underground, the Driller one, whose name escapes me, that we really liked, and its story is not finished, and there's definitely not a season 2 on the table, or it doesn't seem like there's one. So which is unfortunate. We both really liked that story.
Yes, and I'm bummed that I don't remember the title. I need to look up the episode where we reviewed it because I remember you doing a Rockman Dash reference in the title, but I don't remember what the name of the actual show was.
Sakugan.
Sakugan, right? Yes, that was a very fun show. I feel like
there was There was that. There was also Helk, which is who knows if that's going to get its story finished in anime form.
Yeah,
but it's definitely definitely sort of not quite as edgy as this, but definitely a darker story with a twist at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I would hesitate to say the story has a twist because it really doesn't. You're kind of getting what's on the tin.
I mean, Justin, if you watch the first episode of this, you, I think, know what you're getting out of this show. Just in general, in terms of tone, in terms of what the character types are, what the language, and what the focus is put on, and everything. I feel like I got a good idea about what the show is gonna do when I watched like how it handled its story in its first episode. So, okay, I know what you're going for here. I know what this is doing, and considering when it started and everything, it feels like it is definitely one of the shows of that time. And I don't know if it's intentionally harking to a simpler thing, and that's what it's trying to do, or if that just happens due to how it's set up, but I feel like it feels like a simpler story from simpler times.
It very much is. Kind of to its detriment. I mean, a lot of people were really down on this show.
But you seem to at least enjoy parts of it. So what were the parts?
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's certainly not high art or the best writing, but I mean, we get a somewhat interesting cast of characters. Like in the first episode, you see Kainzel trying to save this elven girl, who we never actually really learn her name, which is absolutely hilarious.
Okay,
Kainzel goes up to her and she's like, she calls her Pee-Pee. You say, "What are you doing out here? You should come home." And she's like, "Oh, that's not my name." And then the running joke is that we never actually learn what her real name is. Which not is bad. Kind of funny, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty good. And he ends up making a little bit of trouble for himself because these like basically Knights Templar who are like out there executing people just because you said one bad thing about the 7 heroes, so that means you have to die. So another guy steps in whose name is Weed. Yeah. And he's got an eye patch, and it's like very edgy as well. And he's like, but he helps out Kainzel and Pee-Pee in their moment of need and introduces them to this lady Altea, who is a smuggler of people who helps them get out from underneath the oppressive fist of the 7 heroes, which, she's out there doing the good work.
And
she's got... Okay.
The one thing I was wondering when watching the first episode was, does she stay with the party? Because it seems like she unwillingly has to tag along due to reasons and how it pans out at the end of the episode.
Yes and no, because at first it's sort of like that, and then she disappears for not a long amount of time, but other things happen, and then she ends up coming back around a little bit later on and helping everyone else. So because at first she is definitely, like you said, an unwilling participant in all of this, but she likes Kainzel. She thinks he's got spunk, so. She is willing to be like, I'm at least in your camp. I think you can do this. After seeing what you have done, I think you have the ability to take down the 7 heroes. So she is at least an ally to him. She doesn't abandon him, but she's obviously not, the strongest of the lot, so can't really fight on the same level. But she does show some impressive swordplay as it goes along. So, there's a lot that happens, but there's all that. There's the 7 heroes themselves. The first one that we meet up is. I hope I'm going to try and say this name. It's in German.
Go for it.
Stemwolek.
What?
Stemwolek. I mean, the O has an umlaut on it, so I might be mispronouncing it.
Can you send me the... I'm very interested. Can you send me the... It's probably a nonsense word. I just want to see how it's spelled.
I am going to DM it to you.
I was wondering, like... Now. I have no fucking idea what that is supposed to be. So don't worry about it.
There's a lot of nonsense pseudo-Germanic names in here that are like, sure, guy. All right. I mean, at least the names in Free Ren were
they made sense in terms of the characters and what they relate to. Most of them, anyway. It was like, okay, yeah, I see why you would name the character. It's very on the nose, and we made a joke game out of that, which was very fun. Which we will do again whenever Free Ren Season 2 drops. But, not every show does that, apparently. I was already wondering about the translation. I mean, Bloodmeister to Blademeister. Klingenmeister would probably have made more sense, although Klingenblatt would... But yeah, so... I feel like this show doesn't have as much of a grasp on the German language as Free Ren does.
Like, the name of the kingdom that sends out the 14 lances is this, and I'm still not sure if I'm saying that right. Slaalenden?
Yeah, it looks like Zalenden, but that's also not German. So I have no fucking idea what this is.
And I mean, the way German is pronounced in Japanese is always...
Yes, I mean, sometimes they get it down. Yeah, I mean, the same with English sometimes. And, I mean, it's the same for us when we try to pronounce certain Japanese words. So, who are we to criticize? But still, it's funny. It's just, I feel like I don't want to come across like an asshole making fun of it, but it's just funny hearing people just pronounce the stuff in a very weird way when you are a native speaker, and that just stays with it. It's not a criticism of them. Like, learning a different language is hard, and if you don't have a native speaker around when you create your show, I see that on US shows a lot as well, where it's like they hire people who are obviously not German native speakers, but they then have them speak German sentences, and it's like, okay, that's not even remotely convincing if you actually grew up with that language as your main language. And I assume it's the same for some people if you have a very heavy German dialect and try to speak English and then put that in a TV show and try to convince people that is an actually native English native speaking English person. So, I mean, that goes both ways every time.
Kind of reminds me of, I think it was... I can't remember the name of the game, but it was some old Japanese developed, I think, baseball game from like the olden days, and the names of the players on the roster were like nonsense. Like, they're trying to be like these Western American names, and it's like, okay, I think you needed to consult with someone. Just like, I think
Howdy base man.
I don't know if Shiono consulted with anyone on this, but it reads like it doesn't, outside of maybe the title of the show and Kane Zell's title of Blattmeister.
I mean, this is also a show, and that counts for every show that is created in a respective country. This is geared towards Japanese people, and how many people, how many Japanese people knew German to a degree where it like sticks out to them. So who fucking cares? And if it gets released over here, it's like, if you watch it, at least if you watch it with a dub, it's gonna be probably, if it is actually a German word, or if it's, released in the US, and if it's actually an English word, it's gonna be retranslated and spoken by a person who actually speaks that language, and then, it's not noticeable anymore. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I wonder how many Japanese people really are like, what? That is not how that word is pronounced.
I have to feel like there is probably a non-zero number.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, there are...
Obviously not large, but...
No, but there are people who study different languages, of course. I mean, there's some people who probably are in their, I don't know, which semester of German studies in Japan, probably, or something like that, at least as a secondary course or whatever, and are like, what? What is this?
Let's also not forget that
Übel Blatt.
every single episode title is also in German.
Really? Oh my god.
Yes. With translations provided. I don't know if they are 100% accurate, but
okay,
are...
John, we have to look at these. I need to see the episode titles now. Do we have a Wikipedia link or something? Because there we go. I'm very interested.
Because this also has some summaries under each one. So.
Okay, the first one works. It's wouldn't be spelled like that, but that's how that kind of works. I guess that also works. But no, not really. I mean, no, that's not. I mean, the words are correct, but they're not in the correct, declination and in the right.
Syntax is important.
Yeah, exactly. Syntax is very important. Like so the second one, for example, it's unter Morgenmonde. So that means, according to the show, under the morning moons. So the correct translation would be unter den Morgenmonden. Oder unter den Monden des Morgens. But unter Morgenmonde doesn't make sense. Not entirely, but you still get the idea. The long rain, langer Regen works. Kernzel, of course, the name of the main character. The castle of the hero is perfect. Die Burg vom Helden, yeah, that works. That's good. That's actually proper German. Yeah. The name of the city, Stemwörlich. Maybe that is actually a German city that I don't know. I don't know what the reference is for this. So it would be really interesting. I should probably Google this. But I mean,
he was one of the 7 heroes. So I don't know if they're just trying to give him a weirdo goof name. But
that doesn't ring familiar. But it could be a city. It could be actually a German character from history that I'm not aware of or something like that. I've seen that in anime before. So, Der leere Sarg, episode 7, absolutely correct. Heldmörder is not entirely correct. It would be Heldenmörder. So, yeah, but it's almost right. Young Leaves, junge Blätter is correct. Counterattack, Gegenangriff, also correct. With Feeling, Gefühl zu, nope. Would be Mitgefühl, or maybe mit Herz, with heart, something like that. It depends on the context. And the last one, New Sword, Neues Schwert, is absolutely correct. So it get at least half right.
It's a passing grade.
It's a passing grade, absolutely. That's definitely a C, I would say. So maybe C minus. So yeah, that's fine. I'm just not sure about some of them, but yeah, it went for it, and in half of the cases it worked. So good on them. I'm surprised.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that throughout. Kainzel makes a lot of enemies as well as allies, as you might expect from being very edgy and very singular-minded in his goal. He ends up fighting with the brother of this Princess Ott and kills him, and then Ott swears vengeance, but then she finds out that what Kainzel did was kind of an act of mercy because her brother Klato was up to some not good stuff. So things happen with her as well. Maybe talk about that in a little bit, but a lot of this is just going from point to point, seeing parts of this world and fighting the 7 heroes. Like I said, we have encounters with Stemwörlich.
Yeah.
And then Kainzel has a run-in with one of the previous heroes, Glenn. There's your Chrono Trigger reference. He and Kainzel were kind of good friends back then, but Glenn sort of secretly hated Kainzel back when he was Asherit because he was just a super great swordsman. He was a very calm, even-headed guy back in those days. And he ends up getting killed by Kainzel and then coming back. Apparently it's weird and confusing, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. They run across this dude, Geranpen, who is this guard for part of Stemwillick's White Wing army, and he's just like this big, imposing guy, but he's like this giant softy, and he wants, he doesn't actually know all of the awful things the seven heroes are doing, like underground and behind the scenes, and he just like when he sees someone getting hurt, he's just like he starts crying these tears of like sympathy. He's just like he just wants to help people out, man. He ends up being just kind of a cool dude who gets done dirty, but then he gets done undirty, and he gets some superpowers later on. It's like, oh geez, okay, you 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 got done right. So there's all that. The other in there's this giant confrontation in one of the towns where one of the heroes is like kind of goes off the deep end, and when it's sort of at first when Cainzel starts his little uprising, the citizens are like, oh, well, he's the bad guy. He's going up against the seven heroes. They saved the world. But then when they see one of the heroes in particular start committing these atrocities against the citizens, the sentiment sort of starts to change a bit.
I would hope so.
They tried deploying this like giant battleship airship thing for use against Cainzel and his cohorts, and it gets co-opted by them instead, and they end up using it to attack the castle of this one hero, Barastar. And Barastar is like, when he's first shown off, he's kind of weird because he's like this battle-hungry guy, and there are these women that are brought to him for his pleasure. And when he starts having these weird flashbacks, he kind of like kills one of them, and it's like, oh boy, that's But then later on, when he sees Cainzel, he's able to sort of recognize, well, wait, you're Asherid, aren't you? And he sort of has this flashback to back before they were even conscripted to be, the heroes. He has this moment where he's remembering, like, oh, he want to tend to the fields with his father and his family. He wants to become like this merchant and sell, their wares and become like this merchant guy. I'm very wordy there because I'm not phrasing things very well. Sorry about that. But his father is like, you don't have what it takes to do this, so you need to go and become a hero and provide for us that way. And well, it's kind of works out sort of, but it definitely sort of haunts him. Like it's like this weird repressed memory, but it also reads like he's sort of, God, not like Alzheimer's. What's the word I'm looking for? Shoot.
Dementia?
Yes. Almost like it's a dementia thing where doesn't have a full grasp on the formation of all of his memories, but seeing Asherid is like this trigger to be like, hey, I didn't want it to be like this. And he's like in his final moments, he's like very apologetic and sorry. And it's sort of, honestly, kind of this legitimately sad moment for this character. But Cainzel is like, listen, man, you cannot be suffered to live the way you are because you've done so many terrible things. And he kind of puts him down as almost like an act of mercy. So that's what I thought was, in particular, a really strong moment in there.
Sounds like you can at least like empathize with that character, even though he's a bad guy in terms of.
Oh, on some level, yeah.
Yeah. Or at least you feel, I don't know, at least feel sorry for him in a certain way. Maybe not necessarily empathize, but you can understand where, like, maybe his motivation came from and everything. And
yeah.
So that's always, I feel like that's at least something to give the bad guys a bit of substance.
There's also one of the heroes, Elgnaha, who was...
The names in this show are out of this fucking world.
I know, but he cast a spell on himself to create this giant wall that's like kind of separating out part of one of the world from the other.
Whoa!
This massive wall, and this happens a little bit before, but he ends up turning himself to stone, and Kainzel he goes down into the depths of this like dungeon underneath the city, and he sees this, and he has to, in order to break down the wall, in order to get to, the other side where all the other heroes are holding up and protecting themselves. I guess you could say he's kind of technically already dead because he turned himself into stone, man. But Kingsel has to break the spell by also putting him down. And then this giant wall surrounding everything just like breaks to pieces. And it's like, Jesus, dude, there's a lot of tragedy that happens in this show. But I mean, some of it is weird and dumb and goofy, but others of it feels like it's coming from a somewhat earnest place, but it creates this weird dichotomy in the story that it doesn't always feel super genuine. It feels like, yeah, I did this because it seemed cool, and that is again of its era. And I don't know, a lot of like reading one of the reviews on Anime News Network, it's the person there, Kevin Cormack, reviewed it, was like, yeah, I'm glad this show is done. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get that sentiment, but also like, this is just trying to tell its story, and even though in the anime form it's very incomplete, we got maybe a third of the way through it, I thought it was fine. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's not doing anything wholly new, but at least the encounters with one of the heroes in particular was a bit more interesting than the rest of it. I mean, seeing the turn of the citizens rally against the quote-unquote heroes was probably the big, like, oh, heck yeah moment. Like, everyone is starting to see, the monarchy, as it were, for what it is.
Yeah, it sounds that's like at least a satisfying turnaround. It's like, finally people get it, right? That can be satisfying in itself. To like cut away the lies through the actions of the hero, even though he's not really interested in that. He's only interested in killing the bad guys, but he has a positive effect in that regard, I guess. So is Künzel, at least at that part of the story, is he like a character that you actually want to root for? Like, he didn't feel particularly sympathetic in the first episode. He does also not to the other characters that are on the good side. So I wonder if he actually becomes someone where, like, yeah, that's a guy I could hang with, or at least I aside from his revenge-driven plot, that's a character I can sympathize with.
I mean, like, some of the characters like PP and Altea and Veed and Ott sort of start to see that he can be a decent guy, not through any revealing of his own. We see all of that in flashbacks where, he was a generally pretty nice guy, and he just wanted to go with the other heroes to fulfill his duty, and then, he almost got killed. So
I mean, the whole betrayal stuff just broke him from, as a in terms from a character standpoint. I totally get that. I understand why he's driven to revenge and everything. Like, everything, all his ideals and all his his optimism, I guess, and his positive outlook on the world was just completely destroyed by how these people behaved. So I totally get that.
His smile and optimism gone.
All his apes gone. But he, you can't. I mean, you can. But there should always be more to the main character than being like this rough, I am mission-driven guy. Like the good journey of this is he is that character and he has his mission, and then he comes into contact with other characters that show him there is still more for him in this world, in this life, than this mission for revenge, which is exactly the story that Berserk is up after a certain point. Like, Guts is on his single-minded, revenge-driven mission to kill Griffith. And then he meets his new party. He meets Shirke, he meets Serpico, he meets... why can't I think of the other characters' names? I'm so bad with characters' names. But, he's new Farnese and Isidro. And Puck, of course. Puck is one of the most important characters that lead to a turnaround for Guts. But, that's his story, at least up to the point until Mura left us. And that made him also such a compelling character because he's kind of unsympathetic and an asshole when we meet him. And we only learn later why that happened. And after we learn that and can already empathize with him, he has already started to change due meeting Puck and meeting a couple of other people. And especially when he meets his new party and becomes friends with them and everything and they support him, he becomes he is on the way to becoming the old person, the nicer person that he was for a while in the Millennium Falcon no. What? In the flashback arc, I forgot, Age of the Falcon or whatever. I forget what the name of that famous arc is that has now been done to death in a series and a movie, and 3 movies. But that is a compelling character story. The problem is if you leave characters in whose main mission is the revenge stuff, leave them be just being like these stone cold badasses, and then treat the other characters like assholes or side things or whatever. I feel like then it becomes a bit difficult to root for them. I feel like if they interact with other characters, if they are just alone and only face the bad guys, that's a different story. Then you don't have to do that. But if you have them interact with characters that are not part of the revenge mission, I feel like you need to show a more sympathetic side to them of your main character. So I wonder if Kinzel actually shows that.
I mean, he's cooperative at least.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's a bit more of that in the later chapters of the manga. I'm not sure. But, I mean, that girl I was talking about earlier, when she is at death's door later on, he gives some of the fairy blood that he is infused with to her to bring her back to life and give her similar powers to him. That's so nice. Now he's got someone on the same level as him in his corner. So.
That's cool. Yeah, but that's nice. Yeah, okay, that's some nice gesture and everything. And I was just wondering because in the first episode he felt like kind of a douchebag. So I wondered if he would go the similar route to Guts, or if he would stay like that for a longer time, maybe then change in possible future chapters that haven't been adapted yet. But sounds like he's already on his way there, maybe.
It feels like in this first third, it's a very slow turn. But again, that could speed up later on. Hey, Satellite, maybe finish your adaptations, please.
Yeah, please, especially Sakugan, now that we remember the name. Another question. Satellite is not, in terms of animation, not necessarily as much of a high-profile studio as, for example, Mappa we just talked about. They can deliver really good work. I feel like the first episode of this looked serviceable. The fight looked pretty good, aside from some weird camera perspectives, maybe. But how does that progress throughout this season? Like, do the fights look cool? Like, or is it like, oh no, only the first episode looked passable and then they gave it to the B team?
There's some fights later on that look decent, I think. This is definitely not at the top of their list, but I wouldn't say it's one of their weaker offerings. Like,
It's not top Symphogear.
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Symphogear is weird to me because I feel like the first season looked the best when they had another studio backing them up.
That is true. Yeah, the first season did look the best. That is not.
But I don't think it ever looked outwardly bad.
No, I mean there's some episodes that are definitely, in terms of, I don't know, people who worked on it a lot or time or budget dedicated to it, definitely on the lower spectrum where you have very low impact fights, I guess, or not where it's very like the fight against the noise and everything, or something like that. In some episodes, where it's like, okay, this feels like people just raising their arms and striking with a sword once or whatever, and there's no intricate choreography or some weird, some wild camera pans or whatever in it. But I feel every season had at least a couple of standout moments animation-wise.
Oh yeah.
Where like the satellite went full ham and it looked really good. I feel like the biggest number of them might still be in episode 1, excluding the actual transformation sequences of the girls, because I feel like those get better with every season. I feel like
they went all in on those.
Exactly, especially like in the last season, those look fucking insane. So I feel like that is the outlier there, but aside from that, I probably agree that the first season looks the best, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like throughout Übel Blatt, the quality of the animation was at least consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like there was anything that really horribly stuck out in a bad way. So yeah, I was able to watch it and not look at anything and be like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like watching and be like, oh, okay, sure, fine.
Mm-hmm.
It looks decent and it is what it is. But
so, would you recommend this to some people, certain people? Will you watch a second season if it gets produced?
I might check out a second season if it gets produced. But again, who knows? Again, who knows if that'll happen, number one. And number two, I feel like if you're looking for something like this, it's a little darker and slightly more edgy. Yeah, you can probably derive some level of enjoyment from it. Like I said, I think this is a pretty solid 6 out of 10, maybe, if I were to put a number to it, which I don't really like doing, but I did enjoy this for what it was. Again, it's certainly not high art or absolute cinema. Yes, I put my hands up, like the meme. But if you just want some dark fantasy anime, yeah, it'll fill that role for you.
Where can people watch it if they want to?
You can watch it on High Dive, and I believe the show actually has a dub now as well, which is cool. In an age where less and less shows are getting them, High Dive and Sentai Filmworks are out there doing their best to dub shows. So
neat.
Yeah, check it out if you want something that's a little grittier and definitely not inspired by the video game romancing saga to Shut Up, Don't Worry About It.
Tsukasa Akiuraji always dreamed of becoming a competitive solo figure skater, but starting too late in life meant his ambitions never got off the ground. Now barely scraping by, he takes on an assistant coach job, resigned to a future far from the one he once imagined. For his first day, Tsukasa meets Inori Yuitsuka, a shy 5th grader sneaking into the rink to practice. Captivated by figure skating, but held back by her mother's overprotectiveness and her own self-doubt, Inori has never been encouraged to pursue her passion until she encounters Tsukasa. Beneath her personality lies great potential, waiting to be unlocked with the right guidance. Moved by Inori's determination to change and reminded of his own struggles, Tsukasa offers to coach and help her chase the dream she has been too afraid to voice. While the road ahead is long and filled with unfamiliar challengers and rival skaters, Inari dedicates herself to the art and strives to one day reach the Olympics and become a medalist. Thank you, MAL Rewrite, for that summary, just like the one for Zenshu. So, Medalist is based on a manga by Tsuru Maikara, which I assume is a pen name. That's manga started in 2020, currently counts 12 volumes and is still going. The anime adaptation so far counts 13 episodes and is handled by Studio Engi, who I have not heard about before, not consciously anyway. They have done in-between animation on a lot of high-profile work like My Hero Academia, Mushoku Tensei, some Fate stuff, some Love Life stuff, Gundam Witch from Mercury, and much more. But when it comes to...
I've seen their name around.
Okay. When it comes to actual headlining a show, though, none of the shows they worked on really rang a bell, except for maybe The Detective Is Already Dead. So I'm glad to report that Medalist proves they got the goods. John, you have thoughts on The Detective Is Already Dead, apparently.
It was a show that exists. And It's apparently getting another season for some reason.
All right, well, I guess... judging from Medalist, the animation must have at least been good on it, so...
It was pretty.
There you go. The director of Medalist is Yasutaka Yamamoto, who also directed Hinomaru Sumo, Servant Service, the Valkyria Chronicles anime adaptation, among other things. And also did storyboards, episode direction, and key animation on many other projects like Squid Girl, Tokyo Mew Mew, or Blue Exorcist. The series composition and screenplay were handled by Yuki Hanada, who you should be familiar with, John.
Ooh, really?
He did the same thing for pretty much all of Love Live and its spin-offs, and also Sound Euphonium, Steins Gate, and more. So
Yuki Hanada has had his hands in a lot of really good stuff, so...
And he delivers here. The soundtrack was composed by an even more familiar name, Yuki Hayashi, Mr. Haikyuu in My Hero Academia.
Oh.
He is definitely one of my faves in the anime music composer landscape, and he did not disappoint here either. Aside from handling the score, he also did the insert song composition and arrangement for 5 of the songs played in episode 5 and 8 of this show.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And yeah, this show is, of course, a sports anime. Who would have suspected CC would review a sports anime this season?
Ain't no way.
Ain't no way. For real now. But yeah, so this is about ice skating. That's not a sport I necessarily gravitate to in the anime space. Like, in real life, I don't gravitate to any sport, really. But in the anime space, I, at this point, have reviewed a bunch of sports anime on this show and watched even more. Because I just like sports in anime. I like a good underdog story, which a lot of anime sports stories are, and this is no exception. The other ice skating anime, I think the only other ice skating anime I reviewed was Yuri on Ice, which was a very popular show. That was handled by MAPPA, actually, I think. And I liked that show, but I was not completely enamored with it like a lot of other people are. So I was like, okay, the problem with Yuri on Ice, I think for me was mostly, I like the characters, I like the character stories. I had a problem with the actual sports side of things because I don't know anything about ice skating. I don't know how the competitions are scored. I don't know what the difficult things are, what the important things are about it. What's like when a character performs good, I need the other characters in the show to tell me that they're performing exceptionally good because I can't see it, right? Because I don't know what to look for. I feel like this show is doing a better job, and I'll get into that later, at giving me the ability to be more in the moment and understanding when a character performs well and, actually understanding what's going on in competition, because it does a lot more legwork in terms of telling me what difficult moves are, where what characters might struggle with in training, what the different career paths are, and so on, what they need to do to actually get into certain competitions and everything. So that already are a lot of important basics to make me, as a sports anime enjoyer and aficionado, enjoy your sports anime show. So I was happy to quickly notice that Medalist seems to be very interested in delivering that groundwork for people who are not familiar with this sport.
Oh.
So, yes, as said in a summary, we have two main characters. First, the main male character is Tsukasa, 26 years old, who got into figure skating very late. 14, really only started out with 20, while most figure skaters start like already in kindergarten, probably, with the basics. Yeah. So he got in very late, very passionate, always hard worker. Problem is, if you get that late into this game, you don't really have a chance to making it super far. He went later into actually ice dance, got very far, or got at least to the All Japan competition with his partner Hitomi, or his friend Hitomi. I don't know if they actually have a thing going on. The show is not super clear about that. Like, she seems to have been more successful in the sport, and she is now a coach in her own right. But he came to her to learn from her, I think, and they also became dancing partners and made it to the All Japan tournament. And they didn't place there, like they placed fourth. They didn't get to the podium, but all things considered, and how late Tsukasa started, that was probably the most successful he was in his career ever. And since then, he has been struggling. Like he's doing part-time jobs and everything. He doesn't have a lot of money, and he can't really make any progress, in his chosen career, even though he made it to the nationals. And because of that, he considers himself, of course, not good enough when Hitomi offers him the job of an assistant coach at her school. And he's like, I only made to the nationals because of sheer luck and everything. She's like, no, you actually get the skill. God damn it, right? He has real trouble believing in himself. He lacks severe self-confidence. He is a very positive person, which, is to the benefit of our other main character, but only when it is applied to other characters. He can't apply it to himself. He only, when he looks at himself, he only sees the flaws. He says that he wasn't dedicated enough. He didn't get early into it enough, right, and stuff like that.
Mood.
Yeah. So very relatable character, and you want to immediately, when you get to learn him, and he's such a lovable goofball, like in general, and so fucking passionate and enthusiastic once he meets his to-be student. That you just immediately root for him. The stuff we talked about in the review with Übel Blatt and everything, do we get something to root for that character? And immediately with Tsukasa, you're just immediately on board with that guy. You meet that person, and after a couple of scenes, you're like, okay, he's now absolutely, I'm on Team Tsukasa. He is the best. So that's nice. The other main character is Inori, who is, I think, she's in 5th grade. I don't think they ever say her specific age. Tsukasa guesses like 10 or 11, I think. But yeah, she desperately wants to become a figure skater. She sneaks into the ice rink. She has like this deal with the owner who, just because he wants to be nice to her, tells her, hey, if you don't have the money to actually pay for being here, because the mom doesn't want to give her any money for that, then just bring me worms from I don't know, the park or something. I have a couple of pet birds. I can feed them to them. He doesn't have pet birds. He just tells her that, or something. I think he doesn't. Maybe he does have pet birds, but he just tells her that so that she doesn't have to feel bad if she doesn't have any money and can still watch and train ice skate at the rink. So very nice guy, that owner. But yeah, she's cool of him. Yeah, that's very cool of him. So she sneaks into the ice rink just when Tsukasa is there, due to, being there, meeting Hitomi and everything. And he is just like confronting her as like, young lady, did you sneak in? And she said, oh, fuck, I've been caught, I've been made. And just runs away from him. And he chases after her. And it's a couple of things happen. Very funny things. This is a very funny show. And they end up talking. And she's like, I love ice skating, but my mom doesn't want me to do it. My sister was an ice skater. And she hurt herself and couldn't continue a career. And my mom doesn't want me to experience the same thing. And that's why she is keeping me from doing it, and I don't want to be a burden. And also Inori, doesn't actually think she can do it because her mom isn't supporting her. Like, she lacks a lot of confidence. She's not good in school. She doesn't have any friends, right? Ice skating is the only thing she potentially could be good at, but she cannot fully live that life right now. So she's kind of a sad little girl. So Tsukasa kind of gives her a little push and says, hey, if you really want to ice skate, just tell your mom that you want to do that and have her take you to school. Just believe in yourself. Do it. Very important. Inori actually does that, but that kind of backfires a bit, at least for a moment there. And I talked about that in a sneak peek, but I'm going to bring it up again. So Inori's mom, for the first 3 to 4 episodes of this show, is a very unlikable character. Because you see where she's coming from. You immediately understand what this person is about. She has 2 daughters. One of them was kind of an overachiever, I guess. She immediately was deciding on ice skating. She hurt herself, couldn't continue, and she is worried. Ice skating is very expensive as a sport, that it gets spelled out in the show a lot of time. Equipment is very expensive. Courses are very expensive, and so on. So money, of course, plays also into that. But, the most important thing is that one daughter got hurt and couldn't fulfill her dream, and she is worried that Inori will cling on to a dream due to looking up to her sister. Her sister is the reason she wanted to ice skate, because she looked at her sister on the ice and thought she was super cool and she wanted to be like that, right? So that's her inspiration. And her mom is worried that Inori can't look past that and is going to cling to a dream that she also can't realize, especially because she's now at the cutoff age of actually getting into the sport and being successful, which Tsukasa also realizes because he started also very late and didn't get anywhere really. So, if Inori wants to start, she has to start now. And her mom is this roadblock, understandably from a certain perspective, but she is very selfish. It's obvious that she's doing that because she doesn't want to see her daughter get hurt. But the downside of that is that she bars her daughter from making very important experiences and actually finding something that makes her feel like she's worth something, like doing something that she feels good at, because she doesn't feel good at, she's bad at school. Like I said, she's not good at she is bad at making friends and everything. So ice skating is the only thing where she feels like where she feels somewhat good doing it. And that's the thing her mom takes away from her. So, right? That's just because she doesn't want her daughter she doesn't really pay attention to what her daughter really wants and what she needs. She just looks at her daughter through this very narrow space of her other daughter and her own worries and hurt feelings. And, that's really bad, and that's really bad parenting. I'm sorry, I'm not a parent, but that's very obvious if you look at it. And she has, this very shitty approach to discouraging Inori from her dream in the first episode. After Inori goes to her and tells her that she wants to do ice skating, legit. Her mom takes her to all the clubs in the town to have the coaches tell Inori that it's pointless to try. Because she is already too old, it's too much work, she'll never catch up to the kids who started early, and she will never be good enough.
Man.
I get the intent, right? She doesn't want Inori to end up like her daughter, like her other daughter. Although we'll get to that, because that's also not a good motivation, because it makes it sound like, how she talks about it, makes it sound like that not being able to do ice skating threw her other daughter into depression, and she's become I don't know, maybe killed herself or something like that. Absolutely not the case. So that makes this behavior more ridiculous, but we get to that. So she doesn't want her to waste her youth or dream, or on a dream she has very low chances or almost no chances of achieving. And again, money also plays into it because ice skating is expensive. All understandable reasons, but this ain't it, lady. There's a scene where she points at other girls skating and literally says, "See how good they are? So small and already practicing jumps. Think of how miserable you'd be if you joined them. Wouldn't you be embarrassed?"
What? Excuse? Huh?
Yeah, you keep that going and you can use all the money you save from not letting Inori ice skate to pay her therapy instead. That's some big old shitty anime mom move right there. So I was Immediately. Like, I was, oh my god, burn that character. Like, burn her to the fucking ground. She's one of the worst anime moms I've ever seen. Just fucking Tsukasa, like, take Inuri away from that woman. And, well, my wishes, of course, get fulfilled. Not directly, like he's adopting her or something like that, but Tsukasa, of course, ain't let that shitty anime mom behavior fly, because he and Inuri are kind of in the same situation, only years apart, and he didn't have supportive parents, so either. So he's gonna train her, and he is actually really good at it. Like, in the first episode, he is the one who's encouraging her. He's the one who telling her, you can do this, and he gets very enthusiastic when he sees how much Inuri has already taught herself on her own, and how far she has already progressed. Like, he sees the potential of her immediately, the thing that her mom, of course, didn't pay attention to. He immediately sees that she can actually do this if she puts the work in, and he's so mesmerized. Oh my god, this girl's amazing. A bit too enthusiastic. He, to me, is very much like, oh my god, keep your voice down. and the other parents are already breathing down my neck because of potential preferential treatment to some of the girls, and you're just fawning over this one girl here. You can't do this. And that all of this, like him supporting her and her mom, like going against that and telling him, please don't encourage my daughter too much, that it won't work, and so on. All this leads to Inuri's big statement in the scene in the first episode, where she says, like, please let me, I don't have anything. I hate the person I am right now. I don't want to be this person anymore. And the only way I feel like I can become a different person, get out of this, is ice skating, because that's something I have passion for. That's something I feel like I can do well, and you won't let me do it. Please let me do it. And Tsukasa's reaction to it just will melt your heart. It's just so adorable, like how he's like, oh my god, I get her, I just want to help her, I want to help her achieve her dreams, I want to be a coach. Like, while a few moments ago, at least in the show's runtime, in the episode runtime, he was just very reluctant, because he also didn't believe that he would be cut out to be a coach, because, you know, he feels like he doesn't have the experience, he doesn't have the talent, because he not that good of an ice skater himself and everything. He hasn't cleared the competitions, the badges, and so on, the medals. So he doesn't feel like he is cut out to be that. But he sees this girl that has this desire to progress in this sport that he also has an incredible passion for. So I say, he is a girl who can actually achieve it. And he doesn't want to live through her vicariously. This was one of the worries I had in the beginning, was like, okay, is this gonna be that story where it's like, okay, he couldn't achieve his dreams, which also a lot of parents do, right? They get their kids into the sport that they were also part of, or in any sport or anything successful, or try to make them a movie star or a model or whatever, because they led a normal pedestrian life, or they also were part of that business and couldn't achieve a success, so they want their children to succeed them and live, you know, their success through them. And that's also a very shitty thing to do. That's putting a lot of pressure on the kids. That's like doing it for the wrong reasons. That's not doing it for the kids, that's doing it for yourself. That's very selfish. So I was worried that this story would go also that way, like that he is only doing it because he didn't achieve it, so he wants to achieve success through Inuri. But that's absolutely not the case, because that's not the guy that Tsukasa is. He's just happy to see someone who is kind of in the same situation that he was in, but with the same drive, but that he now can make a change in that person's life by being the support that he never had, and by teaching that person the things they need to learn, and just being that kind of positive force in their life. And he sees that he can be that for Inuri, and he is like, I'm gonna train her. And her just so desperately asking her mom to accept her passion, to accept her will to do this and her dream. He's like, okay, that's it. I'm just gonna take this girl to the nationals. I'm gonna make her a medalist. I'm gonna make her the best skater in the fucking world. He's just, okay, I'm gonna do it, and that's great. And I immediately fell in love with these two characters, and they're a great team. And that is like the most important component of this show, is its two main characters. There are a lot of other cool characters in the show. But the team of Inori and Tsukasa is so good, and their dynamic is so great and so wholesome. Like, they have this incredible positive teacher-student relationship without any, that was the other worry I had, without any icky subtext to it, which, you know, considering her age, considering his age, considering he's a man, she's a girl, and some anime go when it comes with age differences and everything. There was also something I said, oh god, is this gonna turn into this kind of icky love story? Nope.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I was so glad when I mean, this first season doesn't adapt the whole manga, so it's still not. But just in terms of tone and what it's doing right now or has done in this first season, I'm very confident to say that it's not where the story intends to go, and it's just this wholesome tale of a guy who wasn't able to cut it because of lack of confidence and lack of support in his chosen passion, profession, dream. And now he finds this second chance in a girl who is in kind of the same situation, and that can he be a force of good for, and can actually help achieve what she wants to achieve and become the person that she wants to become. So just great. Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because it's such a wholesome tale. It's such a wholesome character dynamic, and the show is packed to the brim with emotional moments between these two characters when they make progress in their individual journeys. Not only Inori becoming a great ice skater in her own right, but also Tsukasa becoming a fucking great coach. This is a dual character story. This is not only about Inori becoming a gold medalist. This is also about Tsukasa becoming a coach to a gold medalist. And finding a new passion in life, like, that is linked to his previous passion. And that's fucking great. So, yeah. Again, all these scenes where she makes progress and he just being so happy about that are so fucking cute and adorable. And Inori just has this smile that lights up the entire room. Like, every time she succeeds in a move, like, the whole show just fucking erupts into sunshine and rainbows, technically, because, you know, that's just the girl she is. And this is especially double impactful because outside of that, she is still dealing with a lot of lack of self-confidence, right? She has to overcome this. She becomes stronger and stronger and more strong-willed. The farther the show goes, she learns to speak out. She learns to be very vocal about what she wants, what she needs, right? But she always, in certain moments, falls back to blaming herself for not achieving what she wants to achieve. Feeling too selfish with her dream and everything, and feeling like she is putting her desires over the needs of other people and everything. Like, she's very self-conscious about that. So it's really great to seeing her grow out of that and actually finding her footing in terms of what, like, again, what I said, what she wants and what she needs, and how that actually positively influences other people as well, and that she can do that for them as well by actually doing what she likes to do. So it's great. In the beginning, her moods are rapidly switching between utter excitement and severe depression when she can't immediately pull off a new move on the first try, which I would attribute to her mom. You know, like a lot of bad shit that Inori thinks about, I would totally give that to her mom. Because, you know, that didn't come from nowhere. But, you know, there's also a thing about that, and we'll talk about that because it happens in the 4th episode, which I feel like is not too late in the show to call it a spoiler. Or too much of a spoiler. But yeah, Tsukasa knows what Inori needs the most. Tsukasa knows that what Inori needs the most is someone who believes in her and, you know, just supports her in her wish to be finally good at something she loves to do. And, you know, he recognizes that her desire to skate is too strong in Inori because for her to stop and be happy that she stopped for technically no reason. Because he experienced the same thing when he started out, and he didn't have someone who went all in for him. So he's hellbent on being that person for Inori. And yeah, again, can't give her preferential treatment, but I don't know if that works out because we only see them really together. We see in the last stretch of this season, we see him also training another person. which is also interesting, an interesting little arc in its own right. But aside from that, it's only just those two really together as a student-teacher duo. There are other teachers that get thrown into the mix that also teach something to Inori. There's a ballet teacher that Tsukasa later invites to a training camp so he can teach the kids something about posture and everything and how to improve on that. And of course that gets into it. And, some of the other coaches that they meet when on the competitions also, give their input and something like that. And he asks them for it, because he's not experienced as a coach. And he's like, can you please help me on this particular topic? Like this coach they meet at their first competition, real competition. And he's like, please, what can I do about this? Teaching her how to make this jump or whatever. And the other coach was like, well, what do you see when you look at this performance and so on? And Tsukasa tells him everything he sees. And he's like, well, you got all of it already. You know what to do. So what do you need my help for? And Tsukasa is like, what? What do you mean? It's like, you got it figured out. Like, the only thing you lack is self-confidence and believing in your choices. Like, you have the right instincts. You have the experience from ice dancing. You know what it's important, what your student needs to do to get better. The only thing you need is to believe in you having those instincts and that eye for, quality and expertise. So that's really cool. Like, that's one of the parts of Tsukasa's character arc. Like, he has... he doesn't know everything, of course not, right? Because he didn't do proper single ice skating. He didn't really take part in that many competitions or whatever. And, he didn't get very far. But he knows the basics, and he is a very good ice skater. Like, he got the movements down. He got the physique. He has the right inspiration, which we'll get to. And, it's just he doesn't believe in himself enough. So this is also, and through, seeing Inui succeed and him being a good coach, he slowly, of course, progresses in that and gets better at that. So that's really cool. And he, when it comes to Inui, it very quickly shows that he is a good teacher, like through his actions, even if there is self-doubt. Like, for example, he knows how to encourage her. He knows when she is shaken and lacking confidence. He understands when he needs to push her regardless, because not facing a challenge would do more damage than failing it. And he knows how to calm her nerves and help her refocus. He's just natural, really, at that. He knows how to handle her. He knows how to handle her different moods. And he knows to what button to push to actually make her progress at the right moment, at the right time. So never be too forceful, never be too delicate, just the right kind of approach for each given situation. He's very adept at that. And again, the only thing he lacks is self-confidence in his own skills. So yeah, just like his student, really, because that's the main thing that Inori also lacks in the beginning, was like confidence in her own abilities to do this. But she has Tsukasa to get her there. And Tsukasa has partially her and some other coaches who help him realize that he also has the skills to get her there. And they developed this really, really cute ritual when, of course, Inori is always very nervous, like in the beginning of a contest, of when she has to do a badge test and whatever, or when she has a competition. So to calm herself down, she develops this ritual of holding the cords on Tsukasa's hoodie to calm her nerves, like right before she has to go on the ice. And then she ties this to like this bow, like if she would tie a shoe, and there's a reason for that, and I won't give that away because that's a nice, very nice emotional moment at the end of the first season. But it's very cute. Just the whole dynamic was just, like I said, very wholesome. Very soon after she starts out, Inori meets one of the other important character, and technically her goal, her goal to match, who is Hikaru. She is like this upstart skate prodigy, the same age as Inori. She is, of course, much more advanced than Inori. Inori is on prelim level, and she's on novice already, and already on her way to Olympics. But she's a very cool person. She's not stuck up or anything and doesn't look down on Inori. She's just like, hey, you that getting into the sport that late, that's super cool. I want to ice skate with you and everything. And Inori is immediately, she and Inori immediately hit it off. And not only does that make her Inori's ostensible first friend, but it absolutely fans the flames of the fire under Inori's ass. She now considers Hikaru the person she wants to be able to beat, with the ultimate goal of becoming the best skater in the world and a gold medalist, of course. Title drop! So... yeah, that's her goal now. She wants to be as good as Hikaru, and yeah, that's the probably how the manga is gonna end eventually. I mean, she's not even remotely close to getting there. Like at the end of the first season, she barely or she just achieved the permission to compete on the same level as Hikaru. That's where the first season ends. But we'll see if how she gets there and when they actually compete against each other. But so far, she is like this lofty goal that Inori has set for herself and that she wants to achieve. Inori, small side thing, Inori can be very intense. Like when she desperately wants Hikaru to teach her how to jump, she's like, very much, you need to teach me how to do this. I don't have any time. I need to get better. And you're the best. Please teach me.
No.
It's very adorable. But it doesn't really put Hikaru off. She just does like, I don't know how to teach that. I'm not a coach, but, you'll get there. So she's also encouraging Inori. And Inori doesn't like practicing her choreography in front of people because she feels like they are laughing at her. So Tsukasa suggests they skate together so she can hide in his shadow. And even more so than his pupil, Tsukasa becomes a completely different person on the ice. Like, gone is the big goofball, making way for an elegant dancer, immediately sparking the desire in Inori to be able to look as elegant on the ice one day, So that's the other inspiration. She not only wants to beat Hikaru, she also wants to be as good and confident on the ice as her teacher is. And now she has like these clear two main goals that she wants to achieve. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be the best ice skater in the world. I also want to be like as cool as my coach. I want to be as cool as Hikaru. And there's these clear things now finally in her life, something she wants to strive for and something she wants to go for. Not all coaches and students have such good synergy though. There are Mario and Ryoka, for example. Mario is a bit brash and likes to tease Ryoka, and Ryoka is a little wrecking ball of fury. Regardless, Ryoka, who likes cats and thus likes to be called Mittens, immediately takes...
Okay.
I mean, that's the translation. I think in Japanese it's Mike-chan. But immediately takes a shine to Inori, and thus Inori has made another friend. Yay. Though it's not easy to survive Ryoka's blast of destructive energy unscathed, especially when Inori gets a bit on her bad side and they become rivals for a while. But yeah, also fun character duo and kind of prominently featured in the show, like at least in the first and second half. Tsukasa also teaches Inori how important it is for her to make her own choices in training and competitions. This is very important. He's not like this dictator in terms of his teaching style. He doesn't always say, you do this, you do that. He's like, okay, you have these two choices. This might not net you as much points, but you have higher chances of succeeding here. If you combine these techniques and stuff like that. These would net you more points, you would stand out more, but these maybe have a higher chance of succeeding. I won't dictate what you go for. This is up to you and the work you put in. I'm just telling you, just from expertise, this would do this and this would do that. He likens it to desserts, right? That's a very funny analogy. He gives her like this example. Hey, is this a dessert, and this does this, and this does this. So both are good, but depending on what you want to do and what you want to learn, one might be better than the other. And this is how you should choose our next steps, right? And he's not the one who decides it just on his own. He asks her what she wants. And that's very cool and a very good way of teaching, actually. So I like that a lot. And in regards to training, the show fast-tracks Inori's training for the sake of having her perform in the first competition in the first 4 episodes. Like, she makes progress very quickly. Probably a good choice considering the short runtime of the show, at least, first season. But it feels like at the beginning of the show, like Inori is just like all of this comes naturally to her because we don't really see her doing moves, like training certain stuff over and over again to get better, which she obviously is doing, but we don't see that. We just have to assume that. And since it's so rushed, you get the feeling like, oh my god, she's a prodigy. She's so fucking good. She doesn't have to do anything. All of that flies to her. Like, she gets better and better and better and better. She hits a bit of a brick wall later in the show, like in the middle part, a bit of it, but not too big. And several small ones in between. But there's never like this real crisis of oh my god, I will never succeed anymore, really, aside from what her mom is doing, obviously, to her. But that was a bit of a thing where it's like, okay, maybe if we took a bit more time showing her progress and everything, it would feel a bit more realistic, and not as like she was always destined to be the new star or whatever. So that was a bit of a thing where it's like, okay, maybe this can be contributed to the show only, or at least the first season only being 13 episodes, right? And maybe they wanted to get to a specific point, and maybe it's longer in the manga, I don't know. But it's not that big of a problem, because, you know, you can assume that she did most of the stuff a lot of times, and, you know, Tsukasa is just a very gifted teacher and everything, so that's how that panned out. But yeah, I appreciate the show teaching the viewer a bit about how scoring works in ice skating. Again, that was one of the things that disconnected me from Yuri on Ice. I understood when characters were performing well or badly due to the scores, but I didn't understand why. And in here, it's like, okay, this move gives you this kind of score. But if you do these combinations of moves successfully, you definitely get a passing score, but those moves are harder to execute. But you don't have to do as many moves that can go wrong, right? Okay, I get why they're now going for this combination instead of this combination. And if she performs bad on that particular move, then that detracts a lot from her score and everything. So that's the key point. That's what she has to succeed to do, and so on. So that immediately, me understanding more of how the performances work and what the important parts of the performance are, gets me immediately much more invested in the competitions and performances themselves, because I can follow along now. I can know now where the important moments in the performance are and what Inori needs to do to succeed to get to where she wants to get. So I like that the show put the time in to actually, you know, introduce me a bit more to these kind of details to ice skating. Another character in the show that is not featured as prominent but is, of course, important is Inori's sister Mika, who is the complete opposite in terms of character. Much more extroverted. But yeah, also sounds like she isn't harboring any resentment towards putting that much time into ice skating, even if it didn't pan out. She's studying abroad in Canada, making steps forward in her modeling career. So, Mom? What exactly was the problem again? Looks like it worked out all anyway. Why did not let have Inori that experience too? Like, even if it doesn't pan out, apparently it still worked out. Maybe because Inori wasn't good in school and everything. But these were the moments where it's like, what is your problem, lady? Just
bad anime mom syndrome.
Yes, apparently. But thankfully, not for too long. Like, up to the third or fourth episode, she's constantly throwing wrenches into the gears because she's afraid Inori will get hurt or not succeed or be depressed. Like, she's trying to influence Tsukasa. She's trying, can you take some of the moves out because it seems like she's not up to her game, and I'm worried that she will not be able to do this. And of course, Inori overhears some of that and, falls back on, oh my god, why can't she believe in me and stuff like that? Or I guess I can't do it after and stuff like that, right? Just support and believe in your child, you shitty parent, for fuck's sake. Like, she only wants her to skate. Yeah, only wants her to skate until middle school too, right? Because she's still considered, it's just a flight of fancy and whatever. And yeah, it's just frustrating, at least for a while. But an important realization for Inori is that it wasn't just the skating that was cool. It was mainly her sister that inspired her. She wanted to look just as cool and pretty on the ice as Mika. And once she realizes that gives her a bit of an additional drive, especially when her sister watches her from the audience. And one of the most important things Tsukasa tells Inori, and which is exactly the attitude her mom should take, after Inori has fallen and isn't able to do the moves she learned right before she has to do it in a competition, is don't worry about falling. It's fine. It's okay to be anxious, but if you fall, you get back up and go on as if it didn't happen. Even if you blow the entire competition, it doesn't matter. I won't be mad. We'll just try again. Telling her first that he believes she can actually do it early in the episode, but also that he will support her no matter the outcome and that she isn't hurting him by failing. Because that's one of the things that Inori is most worried about. She doesn't want to hurt her mom. She doesn't want to hurt Tsukasa by just failing their expectations. Like, not being able to achieve what she set out to do. That's, Tsukasa telling her that she doesn't have to worry about that particular thing is the most important thing an insecure kid like Inori who worries about being too selfish and he is not as confident as her sister needs to hear. No matter what happens, the people who love and support you now will still love and support you after. And he ends his speech with, now knock him dead, kid. What a guy. This is a classic Rocky moment. Fucking amazing. And Inori's first competition is a sight to behold. As expected, it doesn't go perfectly, but just like Tsukasa told her to do, she gets up immediately after she falls and delivers not only what she trained, but also a little extra. The music is great. The animation is stellar. It's awesome. I was yelling, come on, you can do it. I had to verbalize it. I was just so engaged. And yeah, this performance is the thing that finally brings her mom around. Her mom finally realizing that she has a strong daughter and that she was really only worried about getting hurt herself instead of paying attention to what Inori actually wants or needs is one of the best emotional moments in the show so far, up to that point. She finally hugging her daughter and telling her that she will support and believe in her and that she is sorry that she didn't do it from the beginning has everyone in the show and me in tears. It was so worth sitting through the frustration with the mom character in the first 3 to 4 episodes to get to this moment. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fucking great, and I'm glad that I stuck with it to experience that because it was really well done and very emotional high point. And what is also good is that we immediately see what it looks like when a kid thinks it has to do it all on her own. Ryoka, who has always been deemed a problem child by adults, thus lost her trust in them and is now hellbent on achieving greatness entirely on her own. And she's completely thrown off her game when she can't land one move she practiced for very hard. She goes into full depression mode and thinks she can't recover from this because she thinks this has ruined her entire performance. She reboots her choreography, and that mindset, of course, is what has an actual bad impact on the rest of the performance. So you immediately have this contrast. It's like, okay, this is, what happens if Tsukasa wasn't such a great teacher, right? I mean, Mario is still a good teacher, but, she doesn't quite have a handle on what Ryoka needs yet. That, she has a good talk with her after that thing goes wrong, and even though Ryoka was a bit mean to Inori before, Inori still really wants to be her friend, which leads to a couple of very cute scenes between the two, and Ryoka just clinging to her like a fucking toddler. It's very nice. And yeah, Inori sure picked a lofty goal in terms of rival, because what comes after this is Hikaru's first on-screen performance. And that's fucking incredible. I sent you that video.
Yeah, I watched it and I was, wow. Yeah,
still can't believe how good the CG is in this show. I usually can very quickly pick out when something is CG. I wasn't immediately able to hear. Later on in the show, there are definitely some moments where it's like, okay, yeah, here it shows much more. But in the Hikaru's performance, it's just so fluid. The camera movements are so great, which I also think is a big part of why this looks so good. Like the camera movement and shot composition is able to conceal some of the minor hiccups in animation fluidity and moments of stiffness. But just in general, that those 2 minutes of performance, or however long it was, just fucking stellar. It's just such a good choreography. It looks so smooth, and just focus on the right moments and the audience reactions and everything. The music is good, and yeah. This is probably the best the show looks in its first season. It's just amazing. And due to Hikaru, we get 2 rivalries for the price of 1. Because Hikaru's trainer, is Jun Yoraka, a gold medalist, one of Tsukasa's idols, and a piece of work. When Inori asks him to deliver a message to Hikaru for her, he tells her she will never be able to get to Hikaru's level, never mind ever have a chance of beating her. This, of course, riles up Tsukasa, and when Jun retorts with, beating my pupil means beating me, you really think a nobody like you can do that? Tsukasa is like, them's fighting words, and I'm gonna take that challenge. I'm gonna make Inori the best skater on the planet, and yeah. A battle of skaters and coaches, hell yeah. So that's the thing. That's what I meant. You not only get like an underdog story for the student, you only get one for the coach. Who has now his own rival, who is he is deeply emotionally connected to, because seeing Jun perform at the Olympics is what got Tsukasa into ice skating. So he has to basically overcome or get better at coaching than the ultimate lofty goal that he had when he started out ice skating. So that's really cool. That's a goal. That's a challenge. That's what I like to see. That's something to strive for. A thing I noticed on this show is that the translation is sometimes really loose, or often even. In one scene, another kid asks Inori if she plays video games, but the subs say, "Do you watch anime?" And there was several other moments where I'm pretty sure something very different was said than what was appearing in the subs. I don't know if they're dub titles. I don't even know if there is a dub. Otherwise, I mean, I'm fine with loose translations as long as they don't fuck up what the respective scene is trying to convey. There's this one scene in the German dub of Cowboy Bebop where Faye, I think it's the first episode with Ed, and in the original version, Faye promises Ed that she will take them with them or something like that if Ed does something for them or whatever. And at the end of the episode, she just wants to get away. And, you know, she doesn't fulfill her promise because Faye is a shitty person. But, you know, she just wants to get away. And in the German dub version, they made it sound like the others others of the team are trying to stop her from going back to Ed. And she's like, I promised her. It's like, that is the complete opposite of what the scene is doing. Like, what are you doing? What the fuck? This is completely changing her character. What the fuck?
That's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't know if that was just like someone being didn't like Faye being an asshole here, or didn't understand the scene or something like that. It was super weird. So I don't feel anything like that happens in this show, where like a character motivation or a scene is completely reversed in terms of meaning. But there were some moments where I feel like the different parts of a conversation didn't quite match each other, didn't quite connect. And I have a feeling that's also because of the loose translation. So maybe dial it back a bit on the next project, dear translator. I mean, my Japanese language skills are incredibly low since I've forgotten most of what I learned. So if even someone on Milo level notices this, that should make you think. That being said, the loose translation probably enhanced some of the jokes in this show. So I appreciated it in that regard. But like I said, in some moments it was like, I don't know if that actually makes sense in terms of what the characters just said and what the other character said. So just stuck out to me. That rarely happens in most shows. So I was like, okay, weird. Doesn't detract from the fun of the show or anything. It's just something that's stuck out a bit and that I noticed. I like it that after the first competition, the show slows down a bit to show more of the training, the fruits of which are realized last minute in the next competition and performance, which makes it very satisfying. It's not that dedicated to the stories of the other skaters, which again makes sense considering the short runtime of the first season. And maybe there's more to some of those in the other, like in the later parts of the manga. Some of those characters might come back, but we meet a lot of girl skaters in this first season. And some of them are just there for one competition and that's it. So far. I mean, this might all be groundwork laid for later because some of them are definitely advanced, more advanced than Inori. So all of this might be groundwork later, where she has to actually compete against them and get first place over them, like get a better score than them. So maybe I'm judging. I'm too judgy here, and this gets brought back later, but. It was just something where it's like, okay, I would have liked to learn more about this character. I would like to see more, spend more time with that character to learn more about the background, to get more of a feeling of what they are about and, why they are doing ice skating and so on. But most of them, or the important ones, work well enough regardless. Like the story of Emma, for example, a student of the coach who helps Tsukasa. Like, she had a very troubled training period. Had to take breaks because of pain resulting from growth spurts and overdoing it. That's one of the things that happens to children of that age. And she had to deal with a lot of setbacks, frustration, and tears. And I feel her overcoming that in her performance would have hit harder if we saw more of the trying times she went through. But it's a great moment regardless, but this was one of the moments like, okay, we have this really nice resolution to her story and, this gratifying moment of her finally earning the fruits of her labor, but we didn't really see much of that labor. Like, we hear her coach talking about her struggles, but we don't see them really, except for very, very few minor flashbacks. So spending a whole episode on her going through that process and then showing her succeeding in that competition would have been much more cooler. So that was one of the things where I was like, I feel like the show is rushing it a bit here, and I would have liked to spend more time with that particular character. But, it was cool regardless, and her story is also an important lecture for Tsukasa as a coach. Like, he has not been paying enough attention to Inori overdoing it, because she's like she knows she doesn't have that much time, and she wants to succeed, and she's very adamant and very, very work-oriented and, very ambitious in everything, which is why her legs are so strained that she suffers shin splints.
Ooh.
Yeah, not great. Nothing super serious yet, but both of them need to learn to take breaks, even if time is of the essence, right? So, she doesn't have to take breaks for months on end because she overdid it and seriously hurt herself. Or even worse, end up like her sister, right? In that regard, and has to stop entirely. Inori also learns an important lesson in that competition with Emma. She realizes she will probably never fully catch up to some of the girls who started early in the sport, but she will never use that as an excuse to give up and reach for the goal, and she will reach for the gold anyway. And, that's an important lesson to learn, like understanding your shortcomings, quote unquote, and what you maybe can do, but still in the face of that being like, no, fuck it, I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna go as far as I can go because I love this and I want to be the best I can be. If that isn't as good or better than some of the other girls, then that's the way it is. But I know I can still be better, so I'm gonna continue as long as I have the feeling I can get better and enjoy this. And that's cool. We get a time jump of almost an entire year between episodes 9 and 10.
Oh.
We're skipping an entire training period, which, I feel like maybe the show would have benefited from showing us some of that, but also it doesn't feel like anything super substantial was lost. It's basically like her going through all the rest of the badges she needs to learn to be able to participate in novice competitions. Like getting out of prelim level. We skip that entirely and just jump immediately, basically right before her test for the 6th badge that she needs. This is not Pokemon, but it's you get the idea. So at that point the focus is shifted, not entirely shifted, but the show focuses a bit on another character as well, who gets introduced pretty early on and who is also interesting in his own right, who is Ryo. He is like this little shit who is the son of another one of Tsukasa's idols, a guy who also, just like Jun, skated at the Olympics, but Jun got the gold medal, he got the silver medal. And Ryo is like this super, like, I don't know, stuck-up child. He's like, he got a successful father, he is of money, I guess, and he is, he got into ice skating very early because his dad wanted him to do it and so on, and he looks down on other skaters, of course, especially Inuri. He's like, who the fuck are you, right? That is his behavior towards her, and he feels like he knows everything and everything. So when we first encounter him, he's a very unsympathetic little kid. He's very annoying. The more we progress towards the show, and especially in the last episode where he's like doing a training, he doesn't want to train at his school anymore because Jun is hanging around there, and he hates Jun, and for reasons that I won't go into too far. But he goes there. He goes to the school on the request of his father, where Hitomi and Tsukasa coach, and he trains together with Inori, of course. And he's a piece of work, like both for Inori and Tsukasa. Like he's treating them like garbage, partially because he's burdened with the knowledge of how demanding the men's ice skating world is. He's constantly estimating himself as not good enough. Hey, that rings a bell, right, Tsukasa? On top of that, he has to compare himself to his famous father all the time. And then on top of that, at his school, he had to see the talent of Hikaru, who started below him and then surpassed him. And Jun also treating him like a piece of shit that is not worth being trained. That all did a number on his confidence in being able to achieve anything substantial ever. And his worst trait is that he is projecting his perceived own shortcomings on everyone else, like Tsukasa and Inori, of course. Along the lines of, I'm sure I can't achieve anything, so how dare you assume you can? So that's a problem. And of course, his little character arc is getting over that. And, that, of course, is happening by being completely steamrolled by Tsukasa's positivity. Who, don't get me wrong, he is throwing his worst at Tsukasa by bringing up that Tsukasa is technically still prelim level because he didn't get any of the badges. He just did ice dancing because he got into this thing too late. But he's only doing that, Ryo is only doing that so he doesn't have to confront his own wall that he has hit, and that he doesn't have to put the effort into overcoming it. But yeah, Tsukasa won't let that stop him from taking Ryo under his wing, of course, because he knows from his own personal experience that a positive supportive force is exactly what Ryo needs to overcome his lack of confidence and all the shitty behavior that results from that. And it's not like his father hasn't done that for him, but not in the way that Ryo specifically needs. And because Tsukasa and Ryo have some kind of comparable experience, both in terms of also looking up to Jun, and then, Ryo being disappointed because Jun doesn't consider him a pupil that is worth training and so on. And Tsukasa very quickly realizes what Ryo needs, and it's just the thing that turns Ryo around. And that is a very little, I think, happens over the course of 3 episodes or something, little fun character arc that's also emotionally rewarding when Ryo finally is able to do what he wants to do. And his dynamic with Inori is also very funny. It also helps Inori advance, actually, because those two can't stand each other, right? Because especially after Ryo insults Tsukasa, and Inori adores her coach, and it's like, how dare you talk about him, you little shit, right? She gets really agitated and really outspoken. And there's like this amazing moment where Tsukasa actually does a performance after Ryo tells him, you haven't really done anything, right? So why do you think you can teach me anything? And then Tsukasa goes on the ice and shows him that he can almost skate as well as Jun, just in a different way. And through that shows Ryo that he can also become that person, right? He's like, look, you're so much younger than me. You have so much life still ahead of you. And I could get this far, even with the shitty conditions that I started at. So why do you think you can't? Why are you being so pessimistic about this? Just fucking try. and eventually you will succeed. You have the knowledge. You just need to find the right angle and everything. And that performance actually lets Rio realize that. And I think that's the moment where Inori just leans over the ice and looks at him and is like, "Hey, little golden duck, what did you think of my teacher, Tsukasa?" Her face in that scene is so fucking amazing. She's like this absolutely snobbish. Yeah, take that, you little bit. It's so amazing. You never see Inori doing that in the show. She's super nice to everyone. She's very introverted. She's very careful to what she's saying and everything. And then Rio riles her up so much by being mean to Tsukasa that she's just giving him shit like all the time. And it's a joy to behold. It's just a fun way to see her character evolve and see her find the confidence to actually speak to people who treat her badly in that way and stand her ground and stand in for people that she loves and or likes. And it's really cool. Like that's what I appreciated about that last little arc of this season. And yeah,
to see just a little bit of smugness.
Yes, exactly. Just the right amount. And Rio deserves it, right? He's such a little shit in the beginning. So you love to see him get a bit of comeuppance for that. But also, he, at that point, he's starting to change, and he and Inori, of course, develop a different, more friendlier relationship, right? He also has some nice words for her when she is very anxious right before the scores for the final badge test get announced, and she's like shivering. Oh my god, did I make it? If I didn't make it, I will never be able to skate together with Hikaru and so on. And he's like, stop that. Your performance was great. Don't worry about it. And she's like, oh, okay, thank you. It's like, it's nice. You would have never done that before. But, him and he turns around, and the moment where he finally writes down what he actually wants. He didn't fill out his paper in the training camp of what he actually wants to train because he feels like he can't go anywhere, can't achieve anything anymore. What's the point? But Tsukasa gets him to the moment where he actually writes down what he wants to achieve. And it's this so emotional moment. Tsukasa is in tears, like he's, oh my god, what have I done to deserve such a great pupil? It's like, it's so cute. So yeah, it's just a fantastic show. It's super, just emotionally rewarding. It's super entertaining. It's funny. It's well animated. It's got everything. It's got everything I want from a fucking sports anime. It's a fantastic underdog story. It puts enough time in the important characters. Most of the characters that are important in this first season get a little character arc. They get their cathartic moment, mostly during competitions. Some of them, yes, could have been longer. For my taste, I would have liked this first season to be a 26-episode season, 24-episode season, and have spent a bit more time on some of the side characters, learn even more about their background stories, have an entire episode dedicated to each individual character, like Ryoka, like Emma, like Rio, just for them, just learning their character, their story through life up to this point. I would have loved that, but even without that, this is a fantastic season of anime, of sports anime, that I can wholeheartedly recommend. It's just super entertaining. It fucking just went by in a flash. It was super fast. I couldn't stop watching because I wanted to review it, but I also couldn't stop watching because I was so fucking enthralled. I watched it basically in 2 sittings, and it was wow. Yeah, it was just it's just a breeze. It has its dark moments, especially with the mom stuff and everything. But other than that, it's so lighthearted and it's wholesome and it's such good vibes, and it just makes you feel good. It's a real feel good show. And if you're in the mood for that, and you maybe are interested in ice skating or you in others or in sports anime in general or in good animation, whatever, in the cute underdog story, then just, yeah, I definitely can recommend it. You can watch it on Disney or Disney Plus or Hulu. The season ends with a beautiful and very emotional performance, but that's not the end of the story, so I'm very glad to hear that a second season has already been confirmed. I'm looking forward to it very much. I had a fantastic time with Medalist. I laughed, I cried, I cheered, and my time with this first season just flew by. Can't wait to watch the continuation of this, and if it continues its quality run, it might become one of my favorite new sports anime. If you are like me and like a great underdog story, check this one out because you will get 2 for the price of 1, both a coach and a student underdog story, and both of them are very, very cool. And that is a wrap on the 166th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Find us where all the podcasts live, but also check out animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Please leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice if you can. Follow us on the socials or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
He was the best assassin in the world.
And then he went home and became a family man.